Chapter 711. Acting, the last chapter of 2018. The year has passed just like that. I didn't have a good year. I really let myself down this year. No matter what I did this year, I was muddle-headed. My mentality has never been as impetuous and terrible as this year. I hope that 2019 will not disappoint me. I can finish this book as soon as possible and write a book that I want to write. I can write all the experiences of these years. No matter how many things there were, I had to deal with them one by one. Moreover, things had not happened yet. Qin Sheng could not predict the future. What he was concerned about now was this battle. If Yang Daniu won today, he would have more chances to cooperate with Boss Hu. Yang Daniu seemed to have changed into another person suddenly. He leaned his body forward in a weird posture. Even Boss Hu, who was experienced and knowledgeable, had never seen it before, let alone the others. They just stared at the two masters and wanted to see what kind of sparks would happen. Yang Daniu's master was from the old ancestor of Zhongnan Mountains. His sect was based on ancient martial arts, which combined many kinds of martial arts. It was based on the 8 diagrams and the 8 extremes, which emphasized on big movements. Moreover, one's body foundation must be good, so that he could control more movements and would not be caught in a decision at any time. On Zhao Ligong's side, he had also learned some fist and leg techniques, but most of them were from actual combat. His moves were relatively simple, direct, and ferocious without any fancy moves. He aimed to hit the target with one strike and not give the opponent a chance to fight back. Therefore, Zhao Ligong's opponent was Yang Daniu, which was very interesting. Zhao Ligong dashed over an extremely fast speed with an imposing manner. It seemed that he intended to defeat Yang Daniu at the beginning of the battle. Both Qin Sheng and Brother Wu were worried for Yang Daniu. If Yang Daniu lost in the first round, it would be a bit shameful. Yang Daniu waited with that weird posture. When Zhao Ligong was about to rush in front of Yang Daniu, everyone thought that Yang Daniu would adopt a defensive strategy. At least, he would fight back after figuring out Zhao Ligong's strength. However, Yang Daniu was not willing to abide by the rules. He suddenly exerted strength on his feet and rushed out like a cheetah that was ready to pounce. Facing difficulties head-on was a real man. When Yang Daniu was facing Chong Baji, he didn't even defend. Instead, he chose to attack. How could he be sullen and defend when facing Zhao Ligong? Not only did Zhao Ligong's expression change, everyone else also turned pale with fright. This was too abnormal. Either a newborn calf was not afraid of tiger, or it was absolute confidence. In the blink of an eye, the two sides finally clashed. Zhao Ligong did not cower in the slightest, nor did he change his strategy because of Yang Daniu's sudden attack. He still planned to strike first and take down Yang Daniu. Sprinting, leaping, and lifting his knee, Zhao Ligong crashed into Yang Daniu. Anyone could see how much strength he had. If an ordinary person was hit by him, they would probably be lying in the hospital. Yang Daniu had already predicted this and left enough space for himself. He calmly dodged the attack, causing Zhao Ligong to miss and almost graze his waist. At the same time, Yang Daniu threw a punch at Zhao Ligong's abdomen without hesitation. Almost at the same time, when Zhao Ligong landed on the ground, Yang Daniu's punch was about to land. Zhao Ligong directly grabbed Yang Daniu's arm and exerted strength in his arm. His muscles tightened, making it difficult for Yang Daniu to move forward. The two of them stared at each other angrily. Zhao Ligong was full of murderous intent as he stared at Yang Daniu. Since the beginning of the fight, both of them had already felt that the other was not simple, which laid the foundation for the next fight. Yang Daniu's expression was cold, but he lacked Zhao Ligong's murderous intent. He wanted to push forward again, but Zhao Ligong did not give him a chance. He had to admit that Zhao Ligong's strength was very domineering. The onlookers in the distance were worried for the two of them. It seemed like a flash of lightning, but it was actually a display of their strength. If one of them was slightly weaker, he might be defeated immediately. This Yang Daniu is not simple, Boss Hu said with a serious face. Qin Sheng naturally added, Zhao Ligong is also very powerful. Yang Daniu finally met his match today. I wonder where Brother Hu found such a powerful person. Anyway, no matter who won or lost, Wei Li felt that it did not matter, as long as it was exciting enough. Consequently, Wei Li echoed, "Both of you are powerful. Both of you are powerful." In the arena, at this moment, Zhao Ligong had already pushed Yang Daniu away. He exerted strength in the back of his right leg and moved forward again, smashing his arm toward Yang Daniu's shoulder. Yang Daniu felt that this was not exciting enough, so he decided to do something more ruthless. He also rushed toward Zhao Ligong. After dodging Zhao Ligong's attack again, Yang Daniu bent his waist and kicked toward Zhao Ligong's back. Zhao Ligong changed his strategy to defend after his attack failed. He directly hugged Yang Daniu's leg, intending to eat Yang Daniu alive with his superior strength. How could Yang Daniu give him such a chance? He suddenly bounced up from the ground and suddenly burst out with a series of punches, bombarding Yang Daniu's chest. Zhao Ligong's expression changed. He did not have time to react at all. After taking 2 punches, he roared loudly and used all his strength to throw Yang Daniu away. Yang Daniu did not panic. At the same time that he was flung out, he kicked Zhao Ligong's chest with his left leg. It was obvious that he used a lot of strength to kick Zhao Ligong so hard that he took a few steps back. Yang Daniu flew a few meters away and landed on the ground calmly. After that, he stood up and half-knelt on the ground, staring at Zhao Ligong, who was not far away. Although Yang Daniu was thrown away in this round, anyone with a discerning eye could see that Yang Daniu had gained a lot of advantages. Zhao Ligong, who was on the other side, was not convinced. Boss, who shook his head somewhat disappointedly. At the same time, he became interested in Yang Daniu. He could not help but start calculating in his mind. Since Qin Sheng already had Chang Baji, could he poach Yang Daniu over to his side? That would definitely be a profitable business. However, he did not know whether Qin Sheng would give him a chance or not. Qin Sheng finally felt relieved. This Zhao Ligong seemed to be very powerful, but Yang Daniu was obviously able to handle him. Even if Yang Daniu really lost later, he would definitely not lose too badly. After all, they had just started fighting. Who knew if they were testing each other or if they were holding back their strength, and so on. Zhao Ligong took 2 punches on his chest and was kicked in the end. At this moment, it was a little painful to breathe. Obviously, he had underestimated his opponent's strength and was a little careless. However, it did not matter. Anyway, he still had time. He could definitely turn the tables. Just when he was pondering about how to deal with Yang Daniu had already charged over once again. Compared to Zhao Ligong's attack just now, Yang Daniu's speed this time was much faster and more imposing. It was obvious that he was provoking Zhao Ligong. Aren't you the king of soldiers? Aren't you very arrogant? Today, I will trample all your arrogance on the ground and let you know that there is always someone better than you. In this way, you will not suffer a big loss in the future. Yang Daniu suddenly thought of these words. It seemed that he had said these words to others in the past. Sigh. He could not help but praise himself. What a good teacher. Yang Daniu had already charged over. Zhao Ligong did not have any more time to take a breather. He did not want to embarrass himself. He could only bite the bullet and face Yang Daniu head-on. However, he was careful to guard against Yang Daniu's attack. This time, he chose to defend. This time, Yang Daniu arrived in front of Zhao Ligong. He was not as rash as Zhao Ligong just now. Instead, he chose to fight in close combat. Wasn't this king of soldiers very good at fighting? Let's see who was more powerful. This time, when both sides met, they did not have any intention to test each other. They just wanted to use their real strength to see who was more powerful. Yang Daniu punched, kicked, elbowed, shoulder bumped, roundhouse kick. His moves were dazzling. He forced Zhao Ligong to retreat step by step. He did not give Zhao Ligong any chance to fight back. Towards the end, his speed became faster and faster. Zhao Ligong clenched his teeth and kept on defending. He did not let Yang Daniu take advantage of him. After all, in this aspect, his combat experience was definitely above Yang Daniu. Therefore, he knew how to defend. When Yang Daniu's momentum passed, it would be his performance. Zhao Ligong was waiting for Yang Daniu to be exhausted. However, Yang Daniu was also exhausting Zhao Ligong. Both of them were competing in endurance to see who could last until the end. Yang Daniu felt that this was very boring. What was there to defend? If he wanted to fight, he should just fight properly. Therefore, Yang Daniu gave Zhao Ligong a chance. He took the initiative to show his fatigue. He started to reduce the strength and speed of his attacks. This made Zhao Ligong think that he was almost at his limit. However, he had to admit that Zhao Ligong's defense was indeed very powerful. He did not give him too many chances. In addition, his strength was very strong. Every time, Yang Daniu would feel that he was at a disadvantage. Zhao Ligong had already felt that Yang Daniu was gradually at his limit. However, he was afraid that Yang Daniu was playing tricks. Therefore, he did not suddenly fight back. After testing Yang Daniu's moves, he was sure that Yang Daniu was really at his limit. At this time, Zhao Ligong suddenly took a step forward and directly inserted himself between Yang Daniu's legs. He grabbed Yang Daniu's arm fiercely and pulled him closer. He wanted to control the left side of Yang Daniu's fist. At the same time, he hit Yang Daniu's armpit with his elbow. If this hit Yang Daniu's arm, it would probably take some time to recover. Outside, a group of onlookers also felt that something was wrong. Yang Daniu had started to be at a disadvantage. Zhao Ligong was gradually fighting back. Boss was sitting on the fishing platform calmly. As expected, it was not easy for him to find a tough guy this time. How could he lose in this way? Otherwise, he would lose his face. Qin Sheng frowned slightly. He started to worry about Yang Daniu. He could only say that Yang Daniu was very good at acting. Even he himself almost believed that it was real, let alone the others. Zhao Ligong's elbow attack was already in front of Yang Daniu's eyes. Yang Daniu was still acting. He struggled a little and wanted to step back. Zhao Ligong had already expected this. He directly stuck his leg on Yang Daniu's calf, leaving Yang Daniu with no way to step back. It seemed that Yang Daniu was destined to be at a disadvantage. Right at this time, Yang Daniu finally stopped acting and started to perform with his real strength. The hand that had wanted to fight back, but was hit back, suddenly attacked at lightning speed. It directly grabbed Zhao Ligong's elbow that was already in front of him. The power that erupted from Yang Daniu shocked Zhao Ligong so much that his expression changed instantly. He did not expect Yang Daniu to be so powerful. Could it be that he had been hiding his strength? Impossible. It was absolutely impossible. However, before Zhao Ligong could react, Yang Daniu suddenly twisted his body forcefully. His whole body was like a fried dough twist wrapping around Zhao Ligong. The softness of his body amazed everyone. Be it Zhao Ligong or the other people on the scene, all of them were wondering what Yang Daniu was trying to do. Chapter 7:12. Chapter 7:13. That's more like it. The first chapter of the new year. I wish everyone a happy new year. May everything go according to your wishes. There will be many surprises for you this year. What Yang Daniu had to admit was that Zhao Ligong was indeed very strong. He was definitely not an ordinary opponent, especially when his defensive abilities were especially strong. He did not give Yang Daniu any chance to break through at all. To be able to restrain Yang Daniu, it could be seen that Zhao Ligong was not an ordinary character. Therefore, Yang Daniu chose to take an unconventional approach in the end. Otherwise, if they were to continue fighting like this, Zhao Ligong, who was born as a soldier king, might have stronger endurance than him. Zhao Ligong would only continue to wear him down, and in the end, when Zhao Ligong was exhausted, he would be able to find an opening to strike. It was precisely because of this that Yang Daniu gave up on attacking and showed signs of fatigue. He wanted Zhao Ligong to think that he could not make it anymore, so he switched from defense to offense. This way, he would be able to find an opportunity. Now, the opportunity had come. Both of them were very strong in actual combat and had been through a lot. However, Zhao Ligong was still a little lacking. The opponents he had encountered were mostly the same type of opponents who were good at life and death battles. However, the opponents that Yang Daniu had encountered were all kinds of strange and odd people. Therefore, he was more experienced. Therefore, when Zhao Ligong thought that he had seized the opportunity and wanted to give Yang Daniu a fatal blow, Yang Daniu also saw the opportunity. Yang Daniu used Zhao Ligong's body as a pillar and the arm that Zhao Ligong was grabbing onto him as a point of force. He twisted his ankle and flipped. Relying on the flexibility of his body, he suddenly twisted the situation and controlled Zhao Ligong. Zhao Ligong instantly felt that something was wrong. He knew that he was already at a disadvantage. When he wanted to retaliate, Yang Danyu, who had already regained his footing, was accumulating power. Yang Danyu's back was facing Zhao Ligong. He bent his back and bent his legs slightly. His lower body was stable. He exerted force from his waist and soles at the same time. He grabbed onto Zhao Ligong's hands and pulled. At the same time, he roared and used all his strength. Zhao Ligong, who was panicking, was thrown out by Yang Danyu like a kite with a broken string. He flew forward to 5 meters away and then fell heavily onto the ground. Yang Danyu still maintained that posture, looking extremely domineering, like a long-armed ape that had just won a battle, insufferably arrogant. Everyone was dumbfounded. The situation had changed too quickly. Before they could come back to their senses and understand what was going on, Zhao Ligong had gone from having the upper hand to losing completely. And Yang Danyu, who was at a disadvantage just now, had won just like that. What Qin Sheng had done just now was so amazing. Even Wei Li, who was a layman, felt that it was too incredible, not to mention Boss Hu, Qin Sheng, and the others who knew the ropes. It was even more wonderful than a movie. Boss Hu was the first to applaud. He was quite convinced that he had lost in such a way. At the same time, he had a whole new level of respect for Yang Danyu. He could not help but praise Yang Danyu as he said, "Awesome, awesome, really awesome. You have broadened my horizons." Qin Sheng let out a long sigh of relief. It seemed that he still did not trust Yang Danyu enough. Taking a step back, since Lao Chong had such a high evaluation of Yang Danyu, and only allowed Yang Danyu to follow him to Shanghai, it could be seen that Lao Chong was clear about Yang Danyu's strength. Consequently, when Yang Danyu had fought with Lao Chong last time, he might have hidden his strength. Shun Kongwu and another soldier king, who were not far away, were already dumbfounded. It was so freaking awesome that no one in the entire training base could throw Zhao Ligong out after he had gotten close to him. It should be noted that Zhao Ligong's close combat and defense made it impossible for anyone to fight against him. However, he had been defeated today in such a way completely. Shin Kongwu could not help thinking that it was lucky that he did not participate in the competition today. Otherwise, he would have lost twice in a row. Last time, there was Chong Baji, and this time, there was Yang Danyu. How could there be so many freaks around Qin Sheng? Of course, what he did not know was that this was just the tip of the iceberg of the powerful connections of the Qin family. Everyone thought that all the resources of the Qin family were concentrated in Sijio City and that Qin Chang'an was the place where the Qin family was established. However, they did not know how many karma the old master had planted in the Jianghu in those years. Zhuang Zhou, who was not inferior to Chong Baji, Mr. Ding, who had retired from the Jianghu, and Qin Changxing, who had not come out of seclusion yet. Who else could it be? Everything was unknown. It was just the beginning. On the other side, Zhao Ligong, who had been thrown out and fell to the ground, got up very quickly. His ability to withstand blows was also very strong. Consequently, this was not a problem for him at all. Zhao Ligong had been schemed against by Yang Danyu in such a way and had lost his face greatly. How could he let go like this? Consequently, Zhao Ligong rushed at Yang Danyu again without hesitation. This time, he would tear Yang Danyu apart alive, even if he had to suffer a great loss. Yang Danyu was full of fighting spirit. It was rare for him to meet such an opponent. Therefore, he decided to continue the competition. Therefore, he also rushed at Qin Sheng. This time, it was obviously like Mars colliding with Earth. In Boss Hu's opinion, if they continued to fight like this, it would be a matter of life and death instead of victory and defeat. It was unnecessary. Obviously, Zhao Ligong had lost. He just felt embarrassed. Consequently, Boss Hu shouted at once, "Enough." Boss Hu was full of confidence. His roar directly shocked the two people who were ready to continue the competition. The two of them stopped almost at the same time and looked at the crowd on this side. Zhao Ligong gnashed his teeth and said, Boss Hu, give me another chance. Boss Hu said unhappily, you have lost. Don't continue to make a fool of yourself. Get out of here. Although Zhao Ligong wanted to continue the competition, soldiers were born to obey orders. After he had arrived at the training base, Boss Hu's order was the highest order. He had to obey it. Otherwise, he would have to leave here. Zhao Ligong turned his head and stared at Yang Daniu. He was quite unwilling to admit defeat. It did not occur to him that he would lose to this seemingly ordinary man. His pride had been shattered in this way. Yang Daniu said disdainfully, What? Do you still want to fight? You're no match for me. Practice for a few more years. If you are unwilling to admit defeat, we can have a one-on-one fight in private. At that time, I will not be so gentle. It was obvious that Yang Daniu did not want to admit defeat, even though he had gotten the upper hand. This made Zhao Ligong even angrier. Qin Sheng said angrily, Daniu, that's enough. Come back. Upon hearing Qin Sheng's words, Yang Daniu smiled awkwardly. He shrugged and went back to Qin Sheng's side, continuing to be harmless. If what had happened just now had not happened, nobody would have believed that this guy was actually a master. At this moment, Brother Wu had a whole new level of respect for Yang Daniu. In the future, it would be better for him to stay away from this guy and not to provoke him. He was no match for him. At this time, Boss Hu looked at Qin Sheng as if he had seen a gold mine. He said happily, Qin Sheng, we are old friends. Don't hide it anymore. Are there other masters like him? Introduce me to 2 of them. I think you won't suffer any loss. Wei Li also took the opportunity to say, Exactly. Lao Qin, are there any? Introduce 2 of them to my family. Qin Sheng did not know whether he should laugh or cry. He said, You 2, do you really think that such masters are everywhere on the street? I am not a god in the great, all-embracing heaven, who can only be found by chance. Boss Hu immediately shifted his attention to Yang Daniu. He laughed and said, You are right. However, Qin Sheng, you already have Lao Chong. Could you lend this subordinate of yours to me? Qin Sheng smiled gently as he said, Boss Hu, Daniu and I are friends. He is not my subordinate. He just came here to help me. Moreover, Daniu is Lao Chang's martial nephew. How about this? You can talk to Daniu after I'm done with my business. If Daniu is interested, I won't stop him. If he's not interested, then I can't do anything about it. After all, I can't keep Daniu here. Qin Sheng did not refuse directly, which could be considered as saving Boss Hu's face. After all, Boss Hu had said so. Moreover, Yang Daniu was destined to leave. Even he could not make him stay, let alone Boss Hu. In other words, this was just an empty promise. After Boss Hu heard it, he nodded with satisfaction and said, Okay, this is what you said. Don't regret it at that time. Otherwise, I will shed all pretense of cordiality. Of course, Boss Hu was joking. Qin Sheng would not take it seriously. He just laughed it off. Boss Hu looked at Yang Daniu with his eyes full of appreciation. He asked tentatively, Brat, are you interested in working for me? I will definitely make you outstanding in Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Shanghai. Not interested. Who knew that Yang Daniu would not give face to Boss Hu at all? Or maybe he did not know Boss Hu's identity. Even if he knew, it had nothing to do with Qin Sheng no matter how powerful he was. Boss Hu was defeated in this way. Wei Li, who was beside him, could not help but laugh out loud. Qin Sheng could not help it. This was Yang Daniu's temper. Wei Li hurriedly laughed and said, Uncle Hu, let's talk about these things later. At that time, Lao Qin will definitely work for you. Let's talk about business first. Boss Hu thought it was almost time. After all, Qin Sheng did not come to him today to compare martial arts. Instead, he had something important to talk about. Otherwise, why would he mention the Wei family? There was a small lounge next to the training hall. At this moment, iced drinks and fruits had been prepared. It was too hot and stuffy in the summer. Fortunately, the air conditioning in the training hall was very powerful. Otherwise, they would have been soaked through. Boss Hu had already warned others not to approach this place. He also told his trusted subordinates not to tell anyone about Qin Sheng's arrival today. Otherwise, no matter who did it, they would have to bear the consequences. Qin Sheng did not need to think about all these. Boss Hu was very cautious. Even if the cooperation failed, He did not want to offend Third Master Wu. Soon, the crowd moved to the lounge next to the training hall. Only Qin Sheng, Boss Hu, and Wei Li entered the lounge. The others stayed outside. After all, they could not let others know what they were talking about. After they entered, Boss Hu, who was a soldier, said straightforwardly, "Qin Sheng, it seems that you have come back to take revenge this time. Moreover, you are determined to get what you want. You even used the Wei family as your backer. If I don't agree with you, will I offend you to death? I heard from Wei Li that you are not an ordinary person now. Even if the Wei family did not exist, I would not dare to offend someone like you easily." Wei Li smiled happily as he said, "Uncle Hu, this has nothing to do with me. I'm just a matchmaker for you. After all, I know you. You can talk however you want." Qin Sheng looked at Boss Hu and said, "Brother Hu, it is not the first time that we have met. You should know what kind of person I am. I am not so hypocritical." Boss Hu replied in a deep voice, "I know you were in the past. However, you were very ordinary in the past and did not dare to mess around in front of us. You're different now. Who knows what you were thinking?" Boss Hu replied in a deep voice. He did not lower his voice because of Qin Sheng's current identity. After all, he was not an ordinary person either. Qin Sheng was not in a position to explain anything. He could only say, "Since Brother Hu said so, I will not explain anything. Let's talk about the matter as it stands. In the worst case, we will not make a deal, as long as we are still benevolent and righteous." Boss Hu picked up a piece of watermelon and ate it in big mouthfuls. He asked directly, "That's more like it. Tell me, what kind of bargaining chip can you offer?" Qin Sheng squinted. He could not help thinking, is Boss Hu testing me, or is he asking for an exorbitant price? Chapter 713. Naming names. Boss Hu's situation was different from that of the Dugu family. Compared with many tycoons who kept a low profile, Boss Hu was deeply rooted in Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Shanghai. First of all, Boss Hu valued friendship and was a soldier. Secondly, Boss Hu's security business made him acquainted with many tycoons. Boss Hu had encountered strong opponents several times, but his friends had helped him out of danger eventually. For example, Wei Li's father had helped Boss Hu before. After all, Boss Hu had found bodyguards for many tycoons, which was a favor. Finally, and most importantly, Boss Hu had a good relationship with the military. His companies included pilot units for integrating military and civilian affairs, model units for supporting the military, and so on. People with discerning eyes could see all these. However, no one knew what Boss Hu's background was. Anyway, Boss Hu had not revealed it until now. The Dugu family was different. Although the Dugu family had a large business, involved in many industries, and had a wide range of connections, the Dugu family had been able to suddenly explode in the past few years because of their background and connections. That was why others had given them some face. However, now that their relationship was in jeopardy, they could hardly protect themselves. The Dugu family knew very well what the result would be. Therefore, they urgently needed a strong ally. Therefore, after Dugu Qingning met Qin Sheng on behalf of the Dugu family, he directly agreed to Qin Sheng's request without the elders meeting him. However, Boss Hu was different. Boss Hu did not intend to get involved. He only agreed to meet Qin Sheng because of the Wei family and the military relationship behind Qin Sheng. Why did Wei Li's father respect Boss Hu? That was because Boss Hu had always kept a low profile and never got close to anyone. He treated people with sincerity and made friends with benefits. Therefore, Boss Hu had a lot of friends. Therefore, Boss Hu did not pay special attention to Qin Sheng because of his identity. For example, he had to cooperate with Qin Sheng and so on. Now, he wanted to see Qin Sheng's sincerity and his bargaining chips. After hearing Boss Hu's words, Qin Sheng could not figure out what Boss Hu meant at the moment. He could only ask, as usual, "Brother Hu, to be honest, I came here mainly to meet my old friend and then to talk about cooperation. It doesn't matter whether the cooperation is successful or not." Boss Hu chuckled as he said, "Qin Sheng, this is a little fake, isn't it?" Of course, he did not believe Qin Sheng's words. He continued as he said, "Wei Li told me that Third Master Wu went to Shanghai and formed an alliance with your old enemy, Yin Chaozong. They wanted to deal with you together. How could you not panic? Didn't you come to Hangzhou to persuade us to deal with Third Master Wu? Qin Sheng picked up a can of Coca-Cola, opened it, and took a sip. He did not like this kind of carbonated drink very much and only drank it once in a while. Since Uncle Who already knows, is Brother Who willing to help? Qin Sheng joked with a smile. Boss Who laughed out loud as he said, "Do you think our relationship has reached this stage? Do you think I have to cooperate with you because of your current identity and status? I don't think it is necessary for me to cooperate with you because of your current identity and status. I don't think it is necessary for me to help you. Why should I offend Third Master Wu? This is a conflict of interest with me. If I don't see enough benefits and bargaining chips, I will definitely not agree easily, because it is not worthwhile. Who is willing to do business at a loss? What do you think?" Boss Who's words were quite honest, without any falsehood. He did not like to beat around the bush, so it was best to be straightforward. In this way, he would not offend anyone. Qin Sheng selectively ignored some of Boss Who's words. He just stared at the key words and said, "Brother Who, I did not say that I want you to offend Third Master Wu. Moreover, I can't offer you such a bargaining chip. It seems that Wei Li did not make it clear to you. This time, I'm going to give you a generous gift, Brother Who, because you helped me at that time." Boss Who squinted as he asked, "What generous gift?" Boss Who squinted and asked, "Tell me." Qin Sheng said honestly, "Brother Who, if Third Master Wu dies, there will be no leader and they will fall into internal strife. Brother Who, are you not interested in Third Master Wu share the cake? I guess at that time, everyone will rush to get it. If I take the initiative to tell Brother Who first, Brother Who, won't you take the lead? Third Master Wu dies?" Upon hearing this, Boss Who laughed out loud as he said, "Qin Sheng, are you kidding? Third Master Wu will die. Do you have the ability to kill Third Master Wu? Do you know how powerful Third Master Wu is? I guess you can't even deal with the masters around him. I heard that Lao Chong was defeated by Chu Sikong, who is on Third Master Wu's side. Tell me, how can you kill Third Master Wu?" Not many people knew that Chong Baji had been defeated by Chu Sikong. Since Boss Who knew about it, it meant that he had planted a mole on Third Master Wu or the old monk side. It also showed that Boss Who was very ambitious. However, he was not willing to tell Qin Sheng what was on his mind at the moment. Qin Sheng said confidently, "Brother Who, you don't need to worry about how Third Master Wu will die. Maybe Third Master Wu is seriously ill, or he got into a car accident. Anything is possible." Boss Who looked at Qin Sheng up and down as he said, "It seems that you have a plan." Otherwise, Qin Sheng would not dare to talk about cooperation with him. Qin Sheng continued, "Then, let me ask you again. If there is chaos over there, won't you take action? Will you just watch others take away the benefits that you can easily get?" Boss Who said thoughtfully, "If Third Master Wu is really going to die, I will have to make a decision according to the situation. Who knows how things will develop? However, I'm not interested in these things now. Consequently, even if things are really messed up, I probably won't take any action." He had too many identities at the moment. At that time, he really might not take any action. For some things that had been tainted, he could not touch them. Qin Sheng let out a long sigh and said, "It seems that there is nothing to talk about. I don't have enough bargaining chips." Boss Who said directly, "Then we just meet old friends today. We will have opportunities to cooperate in the future." Actually, his attitude was clear to Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng stood up slowly. It did not occur to him that this would happen. However, it seemed reasonable. After all, Boss Who was not from the Duga family. Qin Sheng smiled politely and said, "Brother Who, sorry for bothering you today. We will meet again if there is a chance." Boss Who stood up and said gently, "I will walk you out. We will meet again when Lao Chong returns to Hangzhou." They did not part on bad terms. They just did not reach an agreement. Qin Sheng really did not have bargaining chips to ask Boss Who to take action. If he really had bargaining chips, he would not have taken advantage of the situation to negotiate. Boss Who walked Qin Sheng and Wei Li to the car. Qin Sheng and Wei Li left the training base in the same car. On the way back, Wei Li blamed himself a little. "Lao Qin, it is all my fault. I did not communicate with Uncle Who properly. If there is no other way, can I ask the old man to come out and talk with him?" Qin Sheng refused directly. Don't bother Uncle Wei. Uncle Wei is a busy man now. Moreover, it is not necessary. Even if Basu agrees, he may not do his best. Qin Sheng thought more than Wei Li about these things. Wei Li could not give any more ideas. He had done what he could. Next, it was up to Qin Sheng to do it. Wei Li said, thoughtfully, if there is only the Dugu family, it will be a little difficult to deal with. Do you have any other ideas? Qin Sheng replied meaningfully, I have one, but it is useless now. It may not be useful at that time. I can only take one step at a time. I have to solve Third Master Wu as soon as possible. Whether it is in Shanghai or Hangzhou, I can't afford it. Wei Li was very clear about what Qin Sheng meant. It seemed that the storm in the Qin family was getting more and more troublesome. This was also something that Wei Li did not understand. The old man clearly knew what he was doing in the current situation of the Qin family, but he still supported him to help Qin Sheng. Wei Li was very confused. Could it be that the old man knew more things that no one knew about? Wei Li did not want to disturb Qin Sheng anymore, so he changed the topic and said, let's not talk about this. My father will come back from Hong Kong tomorrow. He said he would entertain you at home. I will pick you up then. Qin Sheng smiled and said, you don't have to pick me up. Just send me the address, and I will go there directly. Wei Li did not hesitate and directly nodded as he said, okay. Consequently, at the intersection ahead, Qin Sheng and Wei Li parted ways. After all, Wei Li had his own things to deal with and could not accompany Qin Sheng 24 hours a day. Although this trip to Hangzhou only lasted 2 days, Qin Sheng did not stop. He had been busy on the road and met people from all sides. The result could be said to be mixed. He was happy that there was no accident on the Dugu family's side. Even Fong Jianpei's side had been settled, which was a pleasant surprise. He was worried that Boss who had refused, which put the next plan in a deadlock. If there was no result on the side in Shanghai, Qin Sheng would really have a headache. He hoped that Chang Baji and Bao Fan could deal with Wu Yongchuan. At least there was still hope. Qin Sheng casually finished dinner. He had been busy all the time and did not have a chance to feel the charm of this city again. After dinner, Qin Sheng took Yang Daniu for a casual stroll by the West Lake. The lake was sparkling, and the evening wind was gentle. Qin Sheng felt a little relaxed. If Lin Su followed him back to Hangzhou, it would be quite romantic to take a walk hand in hand after dinner. Someone's little girl was playing in front of them. She was so silly and adorable that Qin Sheng stared at her for a long time. Those who did not know better would think that she was a human trafficker. He did not look away until her parents took the child away. Yang Daniu asked casually, Brother Qin, you still don't plan to have children? Qin Sheng replied with a smile, I haven't married yet. What's the hurry? Yang Daniu said disapprovingly, Isn't it involved? You can have children first and then get married. At that time, you can hold the wedding and the 1-month party together, which will save money. After saying that, Yang Daniu seemed to have amused himself as he laughed out loud. Qin Sheng rolled his eyes at him and did not bother to despise him. At this time, Qin Sheng received a call from Brother Wu, who said that something had happened to Lin Zhe. It seemed that he had been kidnapped, and the other party specifically asked to see Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng was instantly lost in thought. Was it for me? Chapter 714. Psychological Explosion. I admit that I'm not good at updating, so I seldom ask for monthly votes, so there's no such thing as cheating monthly votes. Secondly, I am responsible for myself, which is to write a good book, which is to be responsible for the readers. This year's update will definitely not be bad. After answering the phone, Qin Sheng's face immediately became cold. Yang Daniu, who was smiling like a retarded child just now, suddenly stopped smiling and stared at Qin Sheng very seriously. Anyone could see that something was wrong. Brother Qin, what's wrong? Why do you look so pale? Yang Daniu said with concern. He could not say anything about Qin Sheng's affairs. After all, the level was too high, and it was not something he could touch. What he could do was to do what Qin Sheng asked him to do and try his best not to let him down. Qin Sheng did not say anything. He was still in deep thought. He was thinking about what was going on. To be honest, Qin Sheng really did not care whether Lin Zhe was kidnapped or not. This guy always caused trouble, so he deserved to be kidnapped. Qin Sheng just took it as a warning. However, it was nothing more than the Lin family's interests. It was not enough to kill him directly. As long as it was not the kind of desperados who wanted to kill him for money, with Qin Sheng's current connections in Hangzhou, it was very easy to solve this problem. So Qin Sheng was not worried at all. However, the other party specifically wanted to see him, which was a bit big. If he thought about it carefully, the consequences might be very serious. First of all, they specifically wanted to see him. Obviously, they knew about his relationship with Lin Zhe, and they clearly knew that he was in Hangzhou now. This was the most important thing. How did they know that he was in Hangzhou? Qin Sheng's journey in Hangzhou was low-key and secretive enough. So far, several parties that he met understood him very well and took the initiative to cover up the news that he was in Hangzhou. Then how did the other party know? On the surface, it seemed that Lin Zhe came to Hangzhou to deal with the company's equity issue this time and offended the local bully in Hangzhou. The local bully's background was on the side of the old monk. But who knew that he was in Hangzhou? Was it the side that Lin Zhe offended or the old monk's side? If it was only the side that Lin Zhe offended, it would be okay and there would not be any danger. But if it was the old monk's side, it would be a bit troublesome. Qin Sheng was destined to seek revenge from the old monk. Now, it was only because the old monk was not involved in the matters in Shanghai that Qin Sheng did not take the initiative to touch them. Who would be willing to provoke another enemy at this time? However, if he went to Hangzhou, the old monk would definitely make a move. Even Third Master Wu knew his current background. How could the old monk not know? Moreover, Yin Chaozong had already looked for the old monk, but he was rejected by the old monk. The old monk was definitely worried that Qin Sheng would come to Hangzhou to seek revenge. Maybe he would strike first to gain the upper hand. In that case, Qin Sheng would be in a dangerous situation now. At the same time, once he fought with the old monk, no matter what the final result was, Third Master Wu would know. In that case, his trip to Hangzhou this time would be completely useless. At the thought of this, Qin Sheng was a little annoyed. Why did Lin Zhe come to Hangzhou at such a crucial time and ruin his business? It was really a sin to have such a brother-in-law. Qin Sheng could not just ignore it. The worst result was that Third Master Wu already knew that he was in Hangzhou. This was a trap set by Third Master Wu and Lin Zhe. They wanted Qin Sheng to walk into the trap on his own initiative. At that time, Qin Sheng might really die in Hangzhou. Another possibility was that the Dugu family or boss whom he had met in the past few days had betrayed him and leaked his information to Third Master Wu or the old monk. This was not impossible. Qin Sheng did not speculate about others with the greatest evil intention. However, since he often walked by the river, he had to be careful. As for Fang Jia and Pain, it was definitely impossible. They were not on the same side. Qin Sheng was still clear about this. Now, no matter who the other party was, Qin Sheng had to go there. Anyway, the result had been so bad, Qin Sheng was not afraid of it being worse. However, before this, Qin Sheng had to go back to the independent courtyard to discuss with Brother Wu, Wang Jian, and the others. He could not go there to die in vain. He had to make a foolproof plan. Go back to the independent courtyard. Qin Sheng told Yang Daniu immediately. Although Yang Daniu was not clear about what was going on, he could tell from Qin Sheng's expression that it was definitely not a small matter, since Qin Sheng had been thinking for such a long time. Yang Daniu immediately called the driver to drive over. Half an hour later, Qin Sheng and Yang Daniu returned to the independent courtyard. The others were already waiting for him. Of course, they would not agree with Qin Sheng taking the risk. Brother Wu was the first to refute. Young master, no matter who the other party is, you can't go there. It's too dangerous. If anything happens, we can't bear the responsibility. Wang Jian also echoed. Young master, this is Hangzhou. We have too many enemies. We have to be careful. I also think so. Qin Sheng frowned and said, anyway, the matter in Hangzhou is almost aborted. Even if it's dangerous, I have to go there and see how we die. Brother Wu could tell that Qin Sheng had made up his mind. He could only say, young master, even if you want to go, I think you should at least communicate with Uncle Chong and Mr. Bao, or directly contact Master Qin. At that time, if there is any danger over there, as long as we buy enough time, someone will come to rescue us. You will not be in a desperate situation. At this time, Qin Sheng suddenly thought of a problem. He frowned and asked, "Did the other party tell us the address? What do they say? Do they only want me to go alone, or can I bring someone with me?" Brother Wu seemed to have just reacted and replied, "They already told us the address. They only said that they want to see you. They didn't say that you can go alone, or can you bring someone with you?" Hearing this, Qin Sheng instantly felt relieved. He analyzed, "It seems that the other party doesn't want to do anything to me. Maybe they really just want to see me. Young master, it's better to be careful." Brother Wu was still worried. After Qin Sheng weighed the pros and cons, he arranged, "How about this? Bahi will stay here. I will give you a contact number. The rest of you, follow me to meet them. If anything happens, Bahi, you can directly call this person and tell him our location. Then let him come to rescue us." Bahi could not help much. Since Qin Sheng had already arranged this, he could only do as he was told. The contact number that Qin Sheng gave was Fong Jianpain. If something really happened, no matter who he looked for, it would not be very useful. However, Fong Jianpain would be very useful. He could go and rescue them directly. At the same time, there would not be any repercussions. Moreover, if something really happened, Fong Jianpain could also contact Xue Qingyan. With Xue Qingyan's power in Hangzhou, Qin Sheng would definitely be fine. Anyway, for the matter in Hangzhou, Qin Sheng did not want to use the resources of Small Ant. After all, some things would only be useful when it was really a critical moment. After confirming the plan, Qin Sheng set off with Yang Daniu, Wang Jian, and Brother Wu. At the same time, he also picked 2 of the best bodyguards to accompany them. There was a total of 6 people on this trip. Then, they went to the address that the other party had told them. At the same time, in a villa in Cici, Hangzhou, Lin Zhe sat on the sofa and drank with a dumbfounded look. There were also 4 sexy and charming little vixens sitting beside him. They were all wearing very revealing clothes. Needless to say, their bodies were curvy and small. Lin Zhe had not come back to his senses yet. In the evening, he had only gone out to buy some fruits. Not long after he had walked out of the community, he was directly forced into a car by a few burly men. After getting into the car, he was directly knocked out. When he woke up, this was the scene. "Brother Lin, drink a little more, I beg you." The beautiful woman sitting in Lin Zhe's arms said coquettishly. Her breasts were faintly discernible and were very eye-catching. At this moment, Lin Zhe was not in the mood to drink and play with girls. He did not even know where he was, nor did he know what kind of situation he was in. He did not even know if this was the last time he would drink before he set off. The more Lin Zhe thought about it, the more scared he became. He directly stood up and shouted, "Brother, say something. Who on earth are you? Why did you kidnap me and bring me here? If there is anything, we can discuss it. There is no need to do this, right?" In addition to these beautiful women who accompanied him, there were also 6 men wearing sunglasses standing around the living room of the villa. However, they completely ignored his existence and let those girls accompany him to play. Moreover, they did not restrict his freedom of movement. As long as he was in the villa, he could do whatever he wanted, even if it was taking girls upstairs to have sex. He could do it, but he could not use the phone, leave the villa, and so on. As expected, after Lin Zhe shouted, it did not have any effect. Still, no one paid attention to him. It seemed that they did not even have the intention to look at him. It seemed that he was an idiot talking to himself. The more Lin Zhe thought about it, the angrier he became. He shouted loudly, "Damn it, isn't it just the Zheng family who is playing tricks? If you have the ability, kill me. If you can't kill me, the Zheng family are all bastards." This time, the Zheng family was the one who was wrestling with the Lin family. Lin Zhe thought that the Zheng family dared to be so unscrupulous because of their relationship with the old monk. However, he had the Qin family on his side, so he could be so unscrupulous. No matter how Lin Zhe scolded, no one responded to him. In the end, Lin Zhe lost interest. He directly picked up the wine in his glass and drank it up. Then he hugged the beautiful woman beside him, put his hand directly on her soft breasts, and shouted, "Don't you want a drink? Come, 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 drink, drink, F*** king, drink until you die." Lin Zhe was really angry. The night before yesterday, he was beaten up by Qin Sheng, and then he was humiliated by Qin Sheng. Yesterday, when he went to find Qin Sheng, he was taught a lesson by Qin Sheng. Who would have expected that today would be even worse? Encountering such a strange thing, his mentality had already exploded, and he did not care about God at all. Everything in the villa was controlled by the playboy. He looked at the young Master Lin in the surveillance video, who was making a scene and rolling on the ground, speechless. What a F***king rascal. Young Master Qin did not know how unlucky he was to have such a brother-in-law. At this time, it was almost time. The playboy said to his confidant beside him, "Have they arrived?" "They have arrived at the foot of the mountain," the confidant said in a low voice. Consequently, the playboy stopped teasing and said seriously, "Prepare to welcome the guests." Chapter 7:15. Being deliberately mystifying, all the plans were made by this rich playboy. In order to avoid any problems in CC, this playboy kept an eye on the surveillance video over there at all times, in case his subordinates couldn't stand this young Master Lin and took action, where this young Master Lin courted his own death. After all, he was not the protagonist today. This rich playboy was none other than Chu Huanxi, the precious grandson of the old monk and the only heir of the old monk, who had a grudge against Qin Sheng and had finally participated in the chase. After the Yin family sought them out to form an alliance, and after Third Master Wu went to Shanghai, the old monk had already made corresponding countermeasures, which was to reconcile with Qin Sheng. It was not that the old monk was afraid of Qin Sheng's revenge. What he was worried about was that if something bad happened to him, this grandson would not be able to accept this circle at all. It was more likely that he would end up in a miserable situation like his son in the past. Therefore, the old monk chose this way, which was the difference between him and Third Master Wu. At this moment, the old monk had arrived and was drinking tea in the yard behind. He let his grandson deal with these things first, and then he would decide whether to show up or not according to Qin Sheng's attitude. He did not directly show up in public, which was also a foolproof plan. This was the old monk's private villa at the foot of Mount Tianmu. Today, everyone had been evacuated, except for several trusted subordinates. These people were absolutely reliable, and the old monk did not want others to know the news that he had met with Qin Sheng. Therefore, Qin Sheng, who had not seen Chu Huanxi yet, could put this worry into his stomach. He was afraid that his whereabouts would be known, so was the old monk. Qin Sheng's 2 cars arrived at the gate of the villa soon. The villa was brightly lit, but there was not even a security guard at the gate, which made Qin Sheng and the others more worried. They were afraid that this was a feast at Hongmen. Under Brother Wu's suggestion, the 2 cars did not directly drive in, but stopped at the gate of the villa. Brother Wu frowned and said, "Young master, it's a bit weird. I think we'd better go back. I'm afraid that there will be an explosion." Qin Sheng asked casually, "Do you know the details of this place?" "Yes, I have. I haven't found anything yet, and the time is too short," Wang Jian replied directly. "How could it not be bad?" However, the old monk's private villa was not under the name of the Chu family. It was just a gift from a friend to the old monk. It was seldom used and usually abandoned. Only today did they choose this place, which was also the old monk's cautiousness. Since he had already made up his mind and wanted to figure out the situation, he would not flinch. Since he was already here, he had made up his mind and wanted to know the situation. How could he retreat at the battle? Qin Ming War? If so, he would not leaked. Wang Jian he would not too. If so, he would not afraid. Wang Qin too. Zhou could not let. Zhou would. One to old Qin. The others tried to persuade him again, but Qin Sheng had no intention of retreating. They could only bite the bullet and drive inside. Anyway, they were ready to fight to the death today. Even if all of them were to die here, they must escort Qin Sheng safely out of here. The others tried to persuade him, but Qin did not want to retreat. They had no choice but to drive in. Anyway, they were ready to fight to the death. Even if they all died here, they had to protect Qin. Yang Dainiu and the others got out of the car first and stopped at the gate of the main building in the villa. They saw a strange middle-aged man standing at the gate. It seemed that he was waiting for them. Yang Daniyu and the others got out of the car first and gathered around Qin Sheng's car. They observed the surrounding environment again and again. When they were sure that there would be no danger, they opened the door and let Qin Sheng get out. Qin Sheng looked calm. He got out of the car slowly, tidied up his clothes, and took a deep breath. Judging from all the details, there should be no absolute danger today. Otherwise, why would the other party be so polite? The strange middle-aged man looked very approachable. He stood there with a smile, not panicking at all, and no flaws could be seen. The others surrounded Qin Sheng too closely, fearing that Qin Sheng would be ambushed or have an accident. Qin Sheng was not used to it. He waved his hand and asked them to step back. Then he walked up to the middle-aged man unhurriedly and nodded to show his respect with a smile. "Young Master Qin, my young master is already waiting for you inside," the middle-aged man said politely. "Young master?" This form of address allowed Qin Sheng to further determine who the other party was. Could it be that he was really Lin Zhe's opponent? How did he know who he was? Did he know from the old monk or someone else? "Who is your young master? Can you tell me now?" Qin Sheng asked in a low voice. The middle-aged man said calmly, "Young Master Qin, we're already here. Why are you in such a hurry? You'll see him in a while. I'll bring you over now." Qin Sheng did not ask any more questions. He nodded and said, "Lead the way." The middle-aged man walked in front, not even turning his head back. Brother Wu and Wang Jian followed closely behind him, not allowing Qin Sheng to follow behind them. The rest of them protected Qin Sheng in the middle. They walked into the hall of the building. The whole manor was a European-style building. The decoration style was also European style, showing European culture everywhere. It seemed that the owner liked Europe very much. After passing through the magnificent hall, there was another door in front of them. The middle-aged man pushed the door open and walked in. Brother Wu gestured for Qin Sheng to stop. He and Wang Jian took the lead and walked in. After confirming that there was no danger, he gestured for Qin Sheng to continue walking forward. The middle-aged man stood at the door. He did not stop them, nor did he get angry. It was as if he was used to this. Time and life were the least cherished by the nobodies, but they were often the most cherished by the big shots. Don't you think this world is very contradictory? After Qin Sheng walked through the door, he realized that the space inside was very big. It should be the living room of the building. In the middle, there was a set of expensive European-style sofas. On the left was a bar and wine cabinet. On the right was a fireplace and a wall. However, there was no one inside. Qin Sheng frowned. Could this be a smokescreen to trick them into coming in first and then make other plans? If the signal here was blocked, even if they wanted to call for help, there would be no way. Fortunately, Brother Wu had already thought of a countermeasure. He asked Bahi to call the inside every few minutes. If he could not get through, he would immediately contact Qin Sheng's friend. The middle-aged man smiled and said, "Young Master Qin, you can rest on the sofa for now. My young master will come over soon." Since he had already come this far, Qin Sheng did not think too much. He strode into the living room and found a place to sit down. The others stood around him. The middle-aged man walked quickly up the stairs until he disappeared from everyone's sight. Qin Sheng looked at the decorations in the living room idly. The owner's taste seemed to be good. Many of them were works from the European Renaissance. He did not know how many of them were real or fake. "Young master, I feel that something is wrong," Brother Wu could not help but say. His biggest task was to protect Qin Sheng. Other things were not within his consideration. Qin Sheng smiled and joked, "It's already so late. Should we leave? How embarrassing it is." The others could not say anything more. Qin Sheng felt a little bored after sitting for a while, so he got up and walked to the bar. He looked at the stored alcohol on the counter. Almost all of them were brands of whiskey, mostly from England and Japan. For example, the owner had collected a lot of Yamazaki. Qin Sheng did not know whether it was a foresight or an unintentional move. Anyway, this brand of whiskey was now very popular. The old whiskey was basically priceless. After the middle-aged man went upstairs, he walked directly into the study inside and said respectfully, "Young master, he has arrived." Chu Huanxi did not dare to put on airs anymore. He had already deliberately mystified Qin Sheng today. He guessed that Qin Sheng was full of anger. If he kept Qin Sheng waiting for a long time, they would not be able to come to an agreement at that time. It was possible that they would settle old and new grudges together. It would be hard to explain to his grandfather. Therefore, Chu Huanxi immediately got up and walked out quickly. They had not seen each other for more than half a year. He did not know whether Qin Sheng still remembered him. Would he directly fall out and fight with Qin Sheng after they met? After all, he had also played a part in hunting Qin Sheng. However, Chu Huanxi had adjusted his mentality as to how to face Qin Sheng now. At his age, if he still did not bow to reality, he would only be trampled on by reality. He did not want that to happen. Moreover, this was the decision made by his grandfather after careful consideration. Chu Huanxi could not refuse or resist it. The status and life he had today were completely created by his grandfather. Without his grandfather, he did not know what he would do. Therefore, he listened to his grandfather very much. Moreover, his grandfather had started from scratch. He had experienced a lot of storms and seen a lot of demons and ghosts. How could he, a playboy who only knew how to eat, drink, and have fun, compare with him? Since his grandfather had made such a decision, what else could he say? Although he had resisted it in the beginning, almost the same as Yin Chaozong and Dugu Qingning, the small figure who had been trampled on by them in the past had now become someone they had to look up to. They also had to apologize to Qin Sheng and acknowledge him as their grandson. Who would be willing to do that? However, this was a reality. You had to bow to it. You could also bear it, but you had to bear the price. For Chu Huanxi, what was the price? His grandfather also told him clearly that he was very likely to lose everything he had now. He was more likely to die on the street in the end, or he could only flee abroad in embarrassment. Therefore, Chu Huanxi accepted it calmly. Not to mention apologizing to Qin Sheng and acknowledging him as his grandson, he would accept it even if he had to kowtow to Qin Sheng. It had to be said that Chu Huanxi, as a playboy, was really flexible. Some people might think that he was spineless, but Chu Huanxi did not care about it at all. When he walked out of the study and came to the staircase, he saw Qin Sheng, who was rummaging through the liquor cabinet at the bar. Chu Huanxi let out a long sigh of relief and said, "Master Qin, if you like whiskey, I will send these to Qin Sheng later." Chu Huanxi's words directly broke the silence in the living room. Everyone looked at the staircase. Qin Sheng subconsciously looked back to find the source of the voice, but he felt it was a little familiar. When he saw Chu Huanxi at the staircase, his face instantly turned livid. Baidu search 081 Chinese net yen. No advertising words. Chapter 716. At any price actually, there was no conflict between young Master Chu and Qin Sheng. In the beginning, it was Yin Chaozong who found Chu Huanxi and wanted him to help him get rid of Qin Sheng. After all, Chu Huanxi was the local tyrant in Hangzhou. It was somewhat inconvenient for him, a foreigner in Shanghai. As far as Chu Huanxi was concerned, which one was more worthwhile, getting rid of an ordinary nobody with no background or making friends with the famous young Master Yin in Shanghai? Therefore, Chu Huanxi chose to kill Qin Sheng without any hesitation. Later, Chu Huanxi and Qin Sheng had more or less crossed paths with each other, especially in the Underground Challenge tournament held by Boss Hu. At that time, Chu Huanxi and Yuan Ke had represented the old monk side, while Luo Changgong and the others had represented the old monk side. Due to the relationship between Qin Sheng and Yang Deng, Luo Changgong had represented Third Master Wu's side to slap the old monk's side in the face in the end. From then on, they had become enemies with each other. That was why Chu Huanxi had hit Qin Sheng when he was down later. However, it did not occur to Qin Sheng that Third Master Wu, whom he respected and had helped a lot, would be the first one to kill him in the end. However, Chu Huanxi's style had always been like this. He would not offend those he shouldn't offend. If he offended someone, he would apologize and admit his mistake obediently. If he offended someone, he would definitely beat him to death and never give him a chance to fight back. That was how he had treated Qin Sheng at that time. It was just that he had never thought that life would be so dramatic. With such a reversal of the plot, the small character from back then had become a big playboy. He could only bow his head and admit his mistake. The main character of the night finally showed up. When Qin Sheng saw that the mastermind was Chu Huanxi, his face turned livid and his mood became more complicated. Qin Sheng's face turned livid. That was because his enemies were extremely furious when they met. Chu Huanxi was a direct participant in that matter. Before that, he had made trouble for Qin Sheng many times. How could Qin Sheng be happy when he met such an enemy? Qin Sheng had mixed feelings because he did not expect that it would really be the old monk side. In that case, what did this meeting today mean? Could it really be a trap set up by the old monk to catch him in one fell swoop to prevent him from taking revenge? In that case, how did the old monk know about it? Had Third Master Wu already known about it? Had the entire plan in Hangzhou been completely ruined? Qin Sheng had to think about this series of causes and effects clearly. Qin Sheng's brain was working very fast. He had already predicted a few possibilities. The worst result was that the old monk had gone back on his words and had joined hands with Third Master Wu in Yanchaozhou. It was highly possible that something bad would happen to him here today. However, Qin Sheng had already made preparations in advance. Moreover, today did not seem to be a feast at Hongmen. Consequently, Qin Sheng could only take one step at a time. He had to figure out what Chu Huanxi was up to and then make corresponding countermeasures. Qin Sheng was relatively calm. However, when Brother Wu, Wang Jian, and the others saw Chu Huanxi, their faces turned pale with fright. They quickly protected Qin Sheng in the middle. After all, Chu Huanxi was their opponent. This time, their main target in Hangzhou was the old monk. After all, Third Master Wu had already arrived in Shanghai. But they didn't expect that Chu Huanxi would be the man behind the scenes today. Neither did they expect that they would meet Chu Huanxi on such an occasion. Now they had to be careful. Qin Sheng stared at Chu Huanxi, who was walking downstairs slowly, and said, "I didn't expect that it would be you. Master Qin, I'm sorry. Please forgive me for meeting you in this way. I have no choice. If I offended you in any way, please forgive me." Chu Huanxi was the only outsider in the big living room, except for the people on Qin Sheng's side. The middle-aged man left after Chu Huanxi came out. This was Chu Huanxi's biggest sincerity to Qin Sheng, and he also wanted Qin Sheng's side to not worry too much. Only Chu Huanxi showed up. There was no one else in the villa. Obviously, Qin Sheng's side was at a disadvantage in this situation. They would be laughed at for nothing. Consequently, Qin Sheng directly signaled everyone to disperse. Qin Sheng walked out of the bar counter and snorted. "Forgive me? Do you think we can use this word to describe our relationship? I didn't expect that you would make trouble for me before I want to take revenge on you. It's really interesting. It seems that the Chu family is very confident now. You still don't take a small fry like me seriously. In this case, let's get even with each other, new and old." Hearing this, Chu Huanxi was not flustered at all. At that time, Qin Sheng was lucky to escape. If Qin Sheng had died, they would not have met today. It didn't mean that Qin Sheng didn't have a chance to meet him anymore. But in his grandfather's words, if Qin Sheng had really died there, the Chu family would have been buried with him. It was because Qin Sheng didn't die that the Chu family didn't get involved. Think about it carefully. Until now, the seniors of the Qin family didn't even show up. After hearing this, Chu Huanxi felt a chill on his back. It seemed that it was true. Consequently, how could such a heavy hatred disappear as soon as they met? Chu Huanxi had already prepared for the worst. What happened now was nothing. He just needed to take it step by step. At this time, Chu Huanxi walked into the living room and was only 3 meters away from Qin Sheng. He stopped and said, "Master Qin, I don't mean to meet you today. There won't be any danger. I just want to ask Master Qin to show up through Linzai. You can rest assured about this. If you are still worried, you can ask your subordinates to search this place. Except for me, there is no one else." Chu Huanxi was so frank, which made others feel weird. How could it be the old monk style? Did he really force Qin Sheng to meet him? Qin Sheng was also a little confused. He did not know what the old monk wanted to do. He asked, "Where is Linzai?" Thinking of Qin Sheng's brother-in-law, Chu Huanqi almost burst into laughter. Fortunately, he managed to hold it in. Oh, Master Qin, don't worry. Your brother-in-law is fine. But he's not here. Now, he is enjoying himself in the villa of our Chu family in CC. There are 4 or 5 beautiful women around him. He is so happy that he forgets about home. Qin Sheng's face changed slightly when he heard this harsh title. Chu Huanqi felt something was wrong instantly and apologized in a hurry. Master Qin, I'm sorry. I didn't mean anything. I just said it without thinking. Please don't take it to heart. Actually, Chu Huanqi's change of attitude was very natural. He was much more sensible than Yin Chaozong and Duga Qingning. No wonder the old monk's trusted subordinates all had a good opinion of this crown prince. They all said that this guy was a fox in sheep's clothing and was very shrewd. Even Qin Sheng was not used to it. It seemed that Chu Huanqi was very familiar with him. His humble manner showed that he was not the arrogant and domineering playboy at all. His attitude of admitting his fear was completely gone. Could it be that all this was just a camouflage? Master Qin took 2 steps forward again. He was only 1 step away from Chu Huanqi. He sneered and said, First, young Master Chu, can you tell me now what on earth do you want to do with such a grand show? Do you want to kill me or have other plans? When Qin Sheng said the words, want to kill me, he already gnashed his teeth. Obviously, he was talking about what had happened in the past. How could he forget it? Chu Huanqi flinched a little, but he still gritted his teeth and said, Master Qin, your words are too serious. Today, I absolutely don't mean anything else. Today, you are our distinguished guest. I just have something to discuss with you. Qin Sheng can rest assured completely. No one else knows about our meeting. I have already told everyone clearly. Whoever dares to say it out will be dead. So, Master Qin, you don't need to worry about whether Third Master Wu knows or not, and you don't need to worry about the connection between our Chu family and Third Master Wu. The old monk had already considered all the things that should be considered. Consequently, he had told Chu Huanqi in advance that no matter what he should say or do, he should do it step by step. He had to make Qin Sheng feel completely at ease first. Only in this way could he have a chance to sit down and have a good talk with Qin Sheng. Otherwise, not to mention reconciliation, they would probably fight when they met. After all, they were Qin Sheng's enemies. Really? Qin Sheng said dubiously. Anyway, Qin Sheng let out a long sigh of relief when he heard this, because at least it was not the worst result. As long as Third Master Wu did not know that he was in Hangzhou, he could continue to plan and continue to target Third Master Wu. In this way, this trip to Hangzhou would not be in vain, and the situation in Shanghai would not be changed. This was what Qin Sheng was most worried about. However, at present, Qin Sheng dare not believe what Chu Huanqi had said. Anyone with a little bit of intelligence would think so. After all, the Chu family was his enemy who had wanted to kill him. Chu Huanqi said firmly, Master Qin, you can rest assured. I guarantee with my life that you will never know. Believe it or not, Master Qin, you can check it out later. You will know it. Qin Sheng became more and more confused. He really could not guess what the Chu family wanted to do. He had to ask again. So, now can you tell me what on earth the Chu family wants to do? Looking at the people around Qin Sheng, Chu Huanqi frowned slightly and said, Master Qin, this is not a small matter. If you are willing, you can ask your subordinates to leave first, and then we can talk about it. Before Qin Sheng agreed, Brother Wu and the others directly objected. Master Qin, you can't agree. What the Chu family did today is really abnormal. We are afraid that it is a trap. We should be careful. Chu Huanqi was not surprised at the reaction of the Qin family subordinates. He said with a smile, there are 4 exits in this living room, upstairs and downstairs. If you are worried, you can guard all of them. Moreover, if I really want to do something bad to you, I don't have to wait until now. Chu Huanqi had been giving in and letting Qin Sheng take control of the situation, as long as Qin Sheng could be at ease. After hearing this, Qin Sheng thought for a while and said, all of you leave. I will call you if I need anything. I don't believe that the Chu family dares to hurt me. Young master, Brother Wu and Wang Jian shouted again, but Yang Daniu was not moved. Qin Sheng scolded them. I told you to leave. Didn't you hear me? After Brother Wu and Wang Jian exchanged a few glances, they had no other choice but to follow Yang Daniu out of the room. Before long, everyone had retreated to the entrance of the living room. However, if there was even the slightest movement inside, they would definitely rush in immediately. After everyone left, Qin Sheng was a little impatient. He asked again, "Can you tell me now?" Chu Huanqi took a deep breath and said slowly, "The Chu family wants to reconcile with you, no matter what price we have to pay, as long as you can forgive us." After hearing this, Qin Sheng was stunned for a few seconds. Obviously, he did not expect that the Chu family would have such a purpose. Then he laughed unscrupulously. Chapter 717. What a big deal. Chu Huanqi said straightforwardly, "No matter what price we have to pay, as long as young Master Qin can forgive us." Any price? Qin Sheng had heard such words not long ago. Last time, Bossy had said such words in order to save his son's leg. But what did Qin Sheng do in the end? He still did not compromise. He directly broke one of Yi Muyang's legs and even destroyed 2 of Han Jingdong's legs. At the same time, Bossy paid for Shangshan Ruoshui that he bought with great difficulty. Only then did Qin Sheng let go of this debt. This time, the Chu family said the same words again. But it was different this time. Last time, although Qin Sheng's life was hanging by a thread, he survived. At least he was fine, so Qin Sheng let it go. But this time, Qin Sheng almost lost his life. Gu Qingyang also paid for it with his life. How could Qin Sheng let go so easily? Therefore, after hearing Chu Huanqi's words, Qin Sheng laughed so unscrupulously. Were all the bigwigs like this? They could crush the bigwigs at will, but when they were really punished, they would think that they could use their money and power to settle the matter. Chu Huanqi had been very humble. His grandfather's order was that as long as Qin Sheng could forgive the Chu family, he would do it, no matter if he kowtowed to admit his mistake or apologize to them. Therefore, Chu Huanqi had made all the preparations. He didn't care about his dignity anymore. At this moment, Qin Sheng's laughter made Chu Huanqi feel that it was impossible to let it go so easily. He suddenly felt a little uneasy. Chu Huanqi didn't say anything. He just stood there, waiting for Qin Sheng's reaction after he finished laughing. After a long time, Qin Sheng finally stopped laughing. He laughed so hard that his tears almost came out. He stared at Chu Huanqi and said, "Reconcile? Forgive? At any price? How dare the Chu family say this to me? When you wanted to kill me, why didn't you think about it? Fortunately, I was lucky and didn't die. But what about the life of my brother, Gu Qingyang? Who will pay for it? You?" Chu Huanqi summoned up his courage and said, "Young Master Qin, I know that no matter what I say, I can't change the fact. If I can make you feel better, I will stand here today. You can beat and scold me in any way. I will not fight back." Qin Sheng said coldly, "Really?" Chu Huanqi stood in front of Qin Sheng without flinching. Apparently, he had told Qin Sheng that he could do whatever he wanted and that he would do what he said. Since Chu Huanqi had said so, of course, Qin Sheng would not be polite. Right at this moment, Qin Sheng took action without hesitation. He kicked Chu Huanqi's abdomen directly. He did not hide his strength at all. No matter who was kicked, he would pay a heavy price, not to mention Chu Huanqi, whose body had been hollowed out. Bang! Chu Huanqi flew out directly and landed heavily on the stairs behind him. His face was almost deformed. He held his stomach tightly and curled up on the ground. He gritted his teeth and groaned. He could not stand up no matter how hard he tried. It could be seen how strong Qin Sheng was. The commotion inside was so loud that it immediately alerted Brother Wu, Wang Jian, and the rest who were outside. They quickly rushed in, only to discover that the situation was actually like this. They were all a little dumbfounded. It was clearly different from what they had imagined. Qin Sheng looked back at Yang Daniu and the rest, indicating that they did not need to come in, and said, "It's all right. You can all go out. I will call you if I need anything." They immediately went out again, not forgetting to close the door. They muttered in their hearts, "Is there something wrong with the young master of the Chu family today? Did he set up such a big trap just to let Qin Sheng beat him?" After Yang Daniu and the rest went out again, Qin Sheng strolled leisurely to Chu Huanqi. At this time, Chu Huanqi had recovered a lot. He stood up with difficulty and forced a smile. Master Qin, have you vented your anger? If not, would you like to come again? Qin Sheng was really confused. Is this guy here to be tortured today? How could he vent his anger with just a kick? The Chu family beat me, as you liked before. Today, you reconcile with me, as you like. Are you King gods? So Qin Sheng grabbed Chu Huanqi's fancy collar and said with a smile, what do you think? Qin Sheng could read the fear and calmness in Chu Huanqi's eyes, but there was no hatred or conflict, which really surprised Qin Sheng. He did not believe that Chu Huanqi could hide his anger so deeply. As soon as Qin Sheng finished his words, he directly punched the side of Chu Huanqi's face. If there was a slow-motion camera, it could be seen that Chu Huanqi's handsome face was directly disfigured. Chu Huanqi fell to the ground again. He felt dizzy. He hadn't felt like this for a long time. His whole face directly swelled up, and blood gushed out of his nose. He even lost 2 teeth. The blood flowed along the corners of his mouth and mixed with the blood from his nose. He looked terrible. If Chu Huanqi had a good memory, the last time he suffered such a big loss was when he was in the junior high school. At that time, he did not know how powerful his family was, and he was just an ordinary junior high school student. Once, his classmate was bullied by a few punks. Chu Huanqi could not stand it, so he stood out to stop them. Unexpectedly, he was severely beaten by those punks and directly sent to the hospital. He was discharged from the hospital after lying in bed for a week. That was the most severe beating Chu Huanqi had ever received in his life. Today was the second time. The result of that time was that the old monk flew into a rage after knowing it. He easily caught those punks and beat them half to death. They knelt in front of Chu Huanqi, begging for mercy, kowtowing and admitting their mistakes. But what was the result? Those punks disappeared in the end. When the old monk was angry, they could not bear it. They could only blame their bad luck in this life and hope to accumulate good karma in the next life. Since then, Chu Huanqi had never been wronged again. The old monk arranged a lot of people to protect him. Every time he was in danger, they would solve it easily. But today, no one would come forward to help him, not even his grandfather. Moreover, he was the one who asked for it. This time, Chu Huanqi could not stand up no matter how hard he tried. He was not a good martial artist. Usually, he went to the gym several times at most. How could he bear such a beating from Qin Sheng? Qin Sheng walked to Chu Huanqi again. He stepped on Chu Huanqi's chest and said with a smile, "Young Master Chu, how do you feel? Have you never experienced it before? Let me tell you again. When I was on the run, the Chu family treated me more cruelly than this." Although Chu Huanqi was already like this, he still struggled and said with a vague smile, "Young Master Qin, if you are still alive, let's continue. Even if I am beaten to death by you today, I will accept it." Anyway, Chu Huanqi's performance today shocked Qin Sheng. He did not expect that Chu Huanqi would have such a side. He was not the domineering playboy who only knew how to bully others. He sneered and said, "Tut, tut, tut. You are quite stubborn." Qin Sheng squatted on the ground, stared at Chu Huanqi, and sneered, "If I kill you, will you accept it?" Chu Huanqi laughed and said, "I accept it. Now, young Master Qin, you can kill me. I will pay for your brother's life. From now on, our families will have nothing to do with each other." "Okay, then I will kill you." Qin Sheng stood up directly. He suddenly stretched out his leg and directly stepped on Chu Huanqi's chest. At this time, the old monk, who had been paying attention to the situation in the living room, finally came late. The show of suffering was almost over. If it went on like this, Chu Huanqi would be killed. At that time, the loss would outweigh the gain. Anyway, everything that this grandson had done today made the old monk speechless. It was the first time that the old monk had recognized this grandson so much. He was more confident that he would be able to control this interest group in the future. He was not as worried as before. "Young Master Qin, if killing can be paid with one's life, then I will use this old man's life to pay for your brother's life. I only beg young Master Qin to spare my grandson." With the help of his trusted butler, the old monk slowly walked out from the back corridor and said in a loud and clear voice, "The main character is finally here." Qin Sheng sneered in his heart when he heard this. He had been wondering how Chu Huanxi could have such a trick. This was not his style at all. He could only say that the old monk was behind all this. Otherwise, how could Chu Huanxi be so confident? Was he really not afraid that Qin Sheng would kill him? Who was the old monk? He was a legendary figure who was on an equal footing with Third Master Wu in Zhujiang. Qin Sheng really could not figure out how he planned. Therefore, Qin Sheng had been waiting for the old monk to show up. That was why he had been so aggressive. Otherwise, would Qin Sheng really dare to kill Chu Huanxi? That meant that he directly pushed the old monk to the side of Third Master Wu and the Yin family. From now on, he would have to face one more powerful opponent. This was not a problem of 1 + 1 = 2. I finally waited for you to come out. Like I said, how could you watch me kill your only grandson? Qin Sheng laughed and said. He ignored Chu Huanxi, who was already in a terrible situation, and walked slowly to the old monk. The old monk waved his hand, indicating that his trusted butler could leave. The butler was somewhat worried, but no one could resist the old monk's order. He had to leave directly. The old monk said calmly, "If killing people can solve the current crisis, you can do it at will." The Chu family has never said anything. However, if the Qin family chooses to reconcile and offers a condition that young Master Qin can't refuse, will you accept it? Qin Sheng asked with interest. What condition? You have to say it. The old monk did not intend to keep Qin Sheng guessing. At this time, it was better to be frank. Therefore, he said directly, "The Chu family will help young Master Qin to deal with Third Master Wu." Is this condition enough? Not to mention Qin Sheng, anyone who heard this would be dumbfounded. This was really a big deal. Qin Sheng instantly stopped talking. Chapter 718. A glimmer of hope for the Chu family. The old monk felt that today's decision was related to the future of the Chu family in the next 10 or 20 years. This was also the last big thing he could do for his grandson. As for whether he could see his grandson get married and have children, the old monk didn't have any extravagant hope. One should always be content with what he had in life. Don't ask for too much from God. This was a huge gamble, a gamble with all the net worth that he had accumulated over the past few decades. One had to admit that the old monk was really bold. This was really a huge sum of money. If he lost the gamble, he would protect his grandson and let him emigrate to another country and never come back. In this way, at least the Chu family would have descendants. As for whether his grandson would live a good life or not, it was not his concern. At least the Chu family would not have to worry about food and drink for 2 generations. After all, he had left enough wealth for his grandson, which was enough for him to squander for the rest of his life. Maybe this was also a good ending for his grandson. At least he would be safe in the future. He didn't need to worry about any danger anymore. However, his life might go back to being ordinary again, and he would not enjoy the status and privileges anymore. On the contrary, if he won the gamble, the Chu family might still be a powerful force in Jiangsu and Zhujiang in the next 10 or 20 years. Especially after taking over Third Master Wu's force, it would be more powerful. Moreover, after holding on to the Qin family, the Chu family's business would be more and more prosperous. With the help of the Qin family, he would be completely on the right path. Besides, with Qin Sheng's protection, even if he passed away, his grandson could take over the business safely. What he worried about most would not happen. Because of these things, the old monk chose to refuse the Yin family's alliance and chose this big gamble. The old monk only told his grandson half of the things, such as why he wanted to reconcile with Qin Sheng and so on. He didn't tell him the other half, and he didn't want to tell him. One day, he would understand his grandfather's good intentions. As soon as the old monk showed up, Qin Sheng was directly stunned. Even his brain couldn't understand what was going on. He thought that the Chu family might be crazy today. After saying this, the old monk ignored Qin Sheng's expression. He knew that Qin Sheng was destined to not understand these things. He just continued to walk forward with unsteady steps. At this moment, the old monk seemed to have aged a lot. Perhaps many people did not notice it. When the old monk walked in front of his grandson, he only glanced at him lightly. In his decades of life, this injury was really nothing. He had suffered injuries that were many times worse than this, but in the end, he still survived. This kind of injury would only allow him to rest for a week or two at most. However, compared to the price he had paid, the return he received was incomparable. Moreover, it was not a bad thing for young people to suffer a little. The more they suffered when they were young, the more they would understand that these sufferings were the wealth of life. However, although it was just a glance, the satisfaction and pride in the old monk's eyes could not be hidden. At least this time, his grandson did not let him down. At that time, what he was most afraid of was that his grandson could not let go of his attitude and could not understand these things. If so, he could not do anything about it. However, his grandson did not let him down. Grandpa, Chu Huanqi, who had used all his strength to climb up, laughed. The way he called Grandpa was like how he called his grandfather when he was a child, when he got a big red flower from his kindergarten teacher and ran to his grandfather happily. Chu Huanqi had never suffered any hardships in his life, nor had he suffered any grievances. On the contrary, he was a rich playboy that everyone kept at a distance from. He ate, drank, gambled, and did drugs. He dared not to do anything. However, his grandfather never said anything to him, as long as he lived happily. However, in Chu Huanqi's heart, he was very clear that his grandfather did not want him to live too hard. Maybe it was because he had been too strict with his father. After his father passed away, his grandfather had been blaming himself and reflecting on himself. Therefore, when it came to Chu Huanqi, his grandfather did not ask him to do anything. However, how much Chu Huanqi hoped that his grandfather would approve of him and think that he was not really a good-for-nothing who just ate and waited for death. He was also capable. Therefore, Chu Huanqi gritted his teeth and continued to do what he wanted to do today. The old monk nodded slightly. The meaning behind this nod was very clear. Chu Huanqi smiled more brightly, as if he had got a big red flower again. However, this shocking face became more and more terrifying. Then, Chu Huanqi directly lay on the ground and did not want to get up, as if he was waiting for death, because he knew that his grandfather would take care of everything later, and he did not need to worry about anything anymore. The old monk seemed to think of something and coughed a few times. The housekeeper, who had retreated to the depth of the corridor, immediately ran out. The old monk took a look at his badly injured grandson again and waved his hand, feeling somewhat distressed. Then the housekeeper knew what to do. Soon, two trusted subordinates ran out from the back and directly carried Chu Huanqi away from the living room. When Chu Huanqi left, he did not forget to take a look at Qin Sheng and smiled very apologetically. At this time, Qin Sheng came to his senses. He still did not understand why the old monk did this. There was no reason. If the old monk wanted to reconcile with him, he could understand it. Maybe he was afraid of his current identity. After all, he had too many identities now. Everyone saw it differently and weighted differently. In the end, everyone would make a different choice. However, the old monk had made such a condition for him. It was really unimaginable. However, if this was really the case for Qin Sheng, it was absolutely another light at the end of the tunnel. After Boss Hu's refusal, Qin Sheng thought that the matter in Hangzhou might be in a deadlock. If only the Dugu family helped him, it would be much more difficult than he had imagined. At that time, when the Dugu family saw the situation, it was very likely that they would go back on their words. The price they would pay would be too high. Even so, Qin Sheng had to brace himself and go on. He had no choice. However, who would have thought that an old monk suddenly appeared out of nowhere and directly turned the enemy that he worried about the most into the ally that he wanted the most? This was not a 180-degree turn, but a 360-degree turn, which directly made Qin Sheng dumbfounded. In that case, if he had a strong ally like the old monk, not to mention a matter in Shanghai, he could easily overthrow Third Master Wu in Hangzhou. Even if the matter in Shanghai did not succeed, with the strong cooperation of the old monk and the Dugu family, Third Master Wu would not be able to take care of himself. At that time, he could only protect himself. Consequently, Qin Sheng was tempted. However, he had to figure out what the Chu family wanted to do. He did not think that the Chu family only wanted to protect themselves. This was not the old monk style. Qin Sheng stared at the old monk and said in amazement, "Master Chu, what are you doing today? I really can't figure it out." At first, your grandson took the initiative to admit his mistake and apologize, but later, you, as a grandfather, did not avenge your grandson. On the contrary, you want to reconcile with me, the enemy. This is not the ruthless old monk in the legend. This should be the first time that he had seen the old monk at such a close distance. When he had been in Hangzhou before, he did not have much contact with the old monk. Most of the time, he had heard other people's legendary stories about the old monk. However, he had been in contact with Chu Huanxi and the old monk subordinates a lot. From the way Chu Huanxi and his subordinates acted, one could tell what kind of person the old monk was. The subordinates of Third Master Wu were all kinds of people. Some were black-bellied, some were ruthless, and some were loyal and honest. However, among the subordinates of the old monk, all of them were sinister, cunning, and cruel. This was the difference, which also represented their overall style. At this time, the old monk walked up to Qin Sheng and replied, "In your opinion, what purpose do you want us to perform on the stage together? The worst result that you are worried about is that we want to kill you, right? However, even if we want to kill you, I don't need to make such an ostentatious scene. At that time, as long as I promise the Yin family and Third Master Wu, you know better than me what kind of situation you are in now. Otherwise, I would not have come to Hangzhou. Moreover, even if I want to kill you, I don't need to do it alone. At that time, I will completely offend the Qin family, and the Qin family will not stop until I die. Only Third Master Wu and the Yin family will be happy, right?" Qin Sheng didn't understand what the old monk had said. After thinking about it carefully, he found that it was indeed as the old monk had said. The old monk really didn't need to do that. Qin Sheng really couldn't figure out what the Chu family wanted to do. "Master Chu, it seems that you already know everything about me, including the purpose of my coming to Hangzhou this time." Qin Sheng did not want to think about it anymore. Since the main characters had shown up, he would know what the Chu family wanted to do eventually. The old monk was really a monk. He chose to cultivate in the quiet place of Buddhism. Maybe he had an epiphany one day and thought it through. He thought it was just to become a Buddha. The Buddha said, "Lay down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha immediately." Isn't this way easier? Maybe he couldn't let go of the mortal world and finally chose to return to the secular life that day. The old monk, of course, was bald. He wore coarse linen clothes and cloth shoes. He was a little hunched. Maybe he was old. His face was full of wrinkles. However, his eyes were very sharp, which was the sign of a big shot. The old monk did not deny it. He replied, "I know. How could I not know? I also know who you met when you went back to Hangzhou this time. You contacted the Duga family in Boss Hu. I think I've almost guessed what you want to do. Since you want to do that, I think they're not as powerful as me, their ally. Compared with their judgment, ambiguity, and all kinds of uncertainties that may appear in the future, if you want to deal with Third Master Wu, the Chu family will go all out at all costs. So, Master Qin, is the settlement condition of the Chu family good enough?" Qin Sheng was rarely controlled by others like this, which made him feel very uncomfortable. Moreover, he could not figure out his opponent's purpose, which made him feel somewhat helpless. Therefore, Qin Sheng had to pressure the old monk again. He sneered and said, "Master Chu, what you said is right. But why should I settle with the Chu family? The Chu family is my enemy." The old monk laughed. He did not take Qin Sheng's trick seriously at all. He said confidently, "You have no choice." Chapter 719. A little while the old monk knew Qin Sheng's situation well. That was why he was so confident. At this moment, what Qin Sheng needed most was an ally. The last person he wanted to provoke was the old monk. However, the old monk didn't want to be at a disadvantage in the game with Qin Sheng. He thought the Chu family had shown enough sincerity today, especially his grandson, Chu Huanxi, who had endured humiliation to carry a heavy load. What the Chu family had done definitely made Qin Sheng speechless. Therefore, when he showed up, he would not easily compromise with Qin Sheng, who was less than 30 years old. Nor would he let Qin Sheng take the lead in the situation. He had already calculated what conditions he was willing to offer and what kind of promises and rewards he had to get. He would never compromise. The old monk was confident. He was more powerful than Third Master Wu to face Qin Sheng. That was because he had prepared for the worst, which was to spend all of his family's wealth and make the name of the old monk disappear completely. He only needed to send his grandson, Chu Huanxi, abroad safely. Qin Sheng had the same idea. The game between the two sides was originally a psychological battle. More importantly, it was a competition of chips and trump cards. Now, he was already at a disadvantage because he could not guess what the old monk wanted to do at all. He could only follow the old monk's rhythm, which made Qin Sheng feel very disgusted. Knowing how to relax and how far to go was the rule of conduct. The old monk didn't want to make the atmosphere too tense. He said with a smile, "Young Master Qin, I didn't know what happened to you at that time. The main reason was that you offended the Yin family. The Yin family came to us. Anyone would make the same choice at this time. An ordinary person versus a powerful Yin family. If I had to choose again, I would still choose the Yin family. I don't mean to offend others. I just want to say that this is the reality. Just like now, the Chu family has done something wrong. We should apologize to them and make up for them. We will never be stubborn. However, it seems that young Master Qin has gone too far by putting all the blame on the Chu family. After all, the real initiator is the Yin family, so the Yin family is the real enemy of young Master Qin. I think they are courting death. Our Chu family doesn't want to make mistakes again and again. Moreover, with young Master Qin's current background, no one can challenge him. Our Chu family is willing to pay for the mistakes we made in the past and choose to help young Master Qin deal with Third Master Wu with all our strength. Young Master Qin, you don't have to worry about the price we have to pay during this period. This is our business. If young Master Qin is still not satisfied, just tell us what you want. As long as the Chu family can do it, we will definitely do it." The old monk was indeed an old monk. He had said all that he should say. Moreover, the Chu family had done what they should do, leaving Qin Sheng no choice. If Qin Sheng still did not intend to reconcile with them, it meant that they would fight to the death. It was very likely that the Chu family would be pushed to the opposite side, which was not what Qin Sheng wanted to see. Reason told Qin Sheng that what the old monk said was right. If the Chu family really wanted to help him deal with Third Master Wu, it would be the best result. However, the old monk was Qin Sheng's enemy after all. He had joined hands with Third Master Wu of the Yin family to kill him. In the end, Gu Qingyang died because of them. If he just let it go and joined hands with the Chu family for the immediate interests, how could he face Gu Qingyang, who had already died? Qin Sheng couldn't get over it. This was the most difficult thing. I know what Master Chu said. Master Chu knows me very well. You are right. I came back to Hangzhou this time to ask the Duga family and boss who to help me deal with Third Master Wu. The reason why I came back to Hangzhou secretly was that I was afraid that Third Master Wu would know it and prepare for it. I was more worried that Master Chu would know it and hit me when I was down. Qin Sheng chose to have a talk with the old monk. The old monk looked at Qin Sheng with a smile and waited for him to continue. As long as Qin Sheng was willing to talk, it meant that they could continue to talk. He was afraid that Qin Sheng was an uncompromising opponent. Qin Sheng said slowly, "It seems that I really have no choice now. To be honest, Master Chu is very sincere in making peace with me with such conditions. I also need an ally like Master Chu to deal with Third Master Wu. To say the least, if we fail to talk today, Master Chu will betray me and tell everything directly to Third Master Wu, which will be a great loss for me. To say the least, I offended Master Chu and pushed him to the opposite side. If Master Chu chooses to join hands with the Yin family and Third Master Wu to deal with me, I will be completely in a desperate situation. All these are possible. I have to consider them all." The old monk interrupted Qin Sheng with a smile as he said, "Master Qin, you don't have to worry about this. Even if our negotiation fails today, I won't tell Third Master Wu about what happened today. I can promise you that. Although I am cruel and merciless and I don't use any means to deal with things, I still have a bottom line. As for whether I will deal with Master Qin or not, as long as Qin Sheng doesn't provoke us now, we won't make trouble for Master Qin. Master Qin, you can rest assured about this. Qin Sheng frowned after he heard that. Was this the old monk? In order to make peace with him today, the old monk almost gave in to him everywhere and considered everything for his sake first. Those who didn't know better would think that they were close friends for many years. Qin Sheng couldn't help but ask, Master Chu, I really don't understand why you did this. I can understand that you refused the Yin family and Third Master Wu, but you didn't have to do this. The old monk stood for a long time, so he walked to the sofa slowly, found a seat casually, and sat down. He said with a smile, Your background is too powerful now. I have no choice but to do this. Qin Sheng said directly, He, others may believe this, but I don't. If this is true, why didn't Third Master Wu and the Yin family do this? Moreover, it's not like nobody knows the current situation of our family. He didn't want to talk too much, so he asked directly. In fact, the old monk was right. The Qin family was not in a good situation now, so those people could take advantage of the situation. If the Qin family was still the Qin family, those people would not dare to do this. However, no one knew what would happen to the Qin family in the end. At that time, if the Qin family survived, it would not be as simple as it was today to settle accounts with them later. Besides, they didn't know how deep the foundation of a big family was. Who knew what would happen in a few years? There were too many unknown risks, so they had to make the right choice from the very beginning. The old monk felt that this was the best choice he could make. Because they offended you. Or maybe they had no choice but to do that. Since I rejected them, I had to make the opposite choice. Otherwise, neither side would be happy, the old monk explained. It was rare for him to speak so much today. That's right. You're right. Qin Sheng thought for a while and said, Master Chu, although you said so much, I still think that you didn't say anything. You still don't want to show your trump card. The old monk laughed out loud and said, You are really smart. No wonder the Yin family want to kill you by hook or by crook. If I were the Yin family, I would do the same. Qin Sheng squinted and asked, waiting for the old monk's answer, Master Chu, can you tell me now? The old monk stopped smiling and said seriously, I choose to reconcile with you. I choose to help you deal with Third Master Wu at any cost. As long as you are willing to reconcile with me, we can talk about any compensation. I only have one condition. Qin Sheng asked immediately, What is it? After talking so much, maybe this was the old monk's real purpose. The old monk said meaningfully, I hope that one day, Master Qin, you can fully support my grandson to take over the position and ensure that he can take over smoothly. My subordinates won't force him to abdicate and his life won't be in danger. What the hell? Qin Sheng didn't come to himself for a while. He asked, Master Chu, I don't understand. You're fine now. You must have made a plan to let your grandson take over. You just need to do it step by step. I don't believe that your subordinates dare to force you to abdicate now. The old monk seemed to have thought of a reasonable explanation. He replied, Master Qin, the reason why you haven't agreed to reconcile with me is that if you reconcile with me, you definitely can't face your dead brother, right? Well, as you said, I will pay with my life. As long as Qin Sheng agrees to my condition, I will give my old life to Master Qin. What do you think? What? Qin Sheng had no chance to fight back because of the old monk's tricks today. The old monk was totally unorthodox. He was not an all-powerful old monk at all. Every move he made was beyond Qin Sheng's expectation. Moreover, he didn't know how to deal with him at all. Qin Sheng refuted directly and said, Master Chu, do you think that I will believe your words? I am not a 3-year-old kid. I guess that if you tell others about this, they will think that you're joking. Who are you? You are an influential figure in Jiangsu and Zhejiang. You said that you will pay with your life to my brother. Do you think that I will believe you? Qin Sheng refuted directly. He was even more confused. The old monk knew that Qin Sheng definitely wouldn't believe him. Even if it was in the past, he wouldn't believe it, let alone others. But today he thought so. I will do what I said. But the premise is that I will help Master Qin deal with Third Master Wu. What's more, Master Qin must promise me what I said just now and fully support me to take over the position smoothly. Of course, the old monk had his own requirements. He couldn't just say it casually. Qin Sheng seemed to feel that something was wrong. He was lost in thought and began to comb through all the conversations today. Finally, he found out what was wrong. That was, all the old monk's purpose today seemed to be to pave the way for Chu Huanqi to take over the position smoothly, including choosing to reconcile with Third Master Wu and so on. There was only one purpose. However, the old monk was fine now. He didn't know when these things happened. Moreover, with the old monk's means, who dared to rebel? Besides, he really didn't believe that the old monk would pay with his life. It was totally impossible. Therefore, the old monk still had something that he didn't say. Qin Sheng just wanted to get to the bottom of it. Otherwise, he would never agree to the reconciliation, let alone those conditions. Who knew whether there was a hidden trap or not? Qin Sheng said seriously, Master Chu, you must have something that you didn't say. All your actions are too abnormal. If you don't tell me the truth, I will never agree to the reconciliation, not to mention those conditions of yours. Although I do need an ally to deal with Third Master Wu, I don't want to jump into a big trap right after I jump out a small trap. The old monk said thoughtfully, if I tell you, will you agree? I can think about it. Qin Sheng had already made a concession. The old monk looked at Qin Sheng. After a long silence, he gave the final reason. He let out a long sigh and said, because I will die soon. Chapter 720. He said yes, was he going to die soon? Qin Sheng was shocked again. Every word the old monk said today was like a heavy bomb, bombarding Qin Sheng one after another. Qin Sheng didn't have a chance to breathe at all, which made it difficult for him to adapt to. He had been in a passive and confused situation all the time. Qin Sheng stared at the old monk sitting on the sofa and couldn't say anything for a long time. Was it true? If it was true, it seemed that many things before could be understood. No wonder the old monk had been paving the way for Chu Huanqi. It turned out that he was making arrangements for his death. At this moment, the old monk, who had spoken his mind, was so relieved and looked even older. He sighed with emotion and said, what I said today is true, including this news. At present, there are no more than 3 people who know this news. Even my grandson doesn't know it. It's just that you don't believe what I said, so I can only tell you this news. I hope you can help me keep it a secret. This is also the reason why I am willing to reconcile with you and pay such a heavy price at the same time. This is also the reason why you must agree to my condition. Once I die, I believe that with Huanqi's current ability, he can't control the overall situation at all. At that time, he may even lose his life. I've already let his parents down, so I can't let him down anymore. At this time, the old monk was just like old Master Qin, who was just an ordinary grandfather. In order to make arrangements for his grandson's future, he could do whatever it took. I believe you. Why did you choose me, Master Chu? After Qin Sheng came to his senses again, he asked meaningfully. He had received a lot of information today, so he had to digest it slowly. The old monk shook his head and smiled bitterly. I have no choice. You're the most suitable candidate in several aspects. First, there's a conflict between us. If we don't resolve this conflict, you will eventually come to us for revenge. Even if I choose someone else who can stop you at that time, then wouldn't everything I've done be in vain? Second, I don't have a choice. I don't trust others at all. Whether it is my ambitious subordinates or big shots like Third Master Wu, they all want my interests in the end. Even if they agree, they're bound to go back on their words. Huanqi can't fight against them at all, so the result will be the same. But you're different. Your background means that you're not interested in these small profits, and your life's direction isn't this. Thirdly, you and I have the opportunity to negotiate and do business. You need me, and I need you. This will allow us to reach a consensus, so you're more suitable than anyone else. Today, Qin Sheng really knelt down to the old monk. The old monk's plan was really clear. He had calculated all the possibilities clearly. He had dug a big hole for him. Qin Sheng let out a long sigh as he said, I've only heard of the words old monk before. Today, I've finally seen it with my own eyes. An old monk is indeed an old monk. He is more far-sighted than Third Master Wu. The old monk chuckled as he said, Third Master Wu and I are in different situations. So, we look at the problem from different angles. Third Master Wu doesn't need to think about these things. His foster sons have a balance of power and are restraining each other. The most important thing is that Third Master Wu doesn't need to think about his successor. I'm different. Of course, I want to hand over the family property that I've accumulated for dozens of years to my grandson. Why should I let an outsider take advantage of it? When I'm alive, they don't dare to act rashly. No matter how ambitious they are, they have to pretend to be my grandson. However, once I'm dead, these people's true colors will all be exposed. At that time, nobody will know how ugly they will be. In front of them, Huan Xin is nothing at all. Qin Sheng asked in reply, Master Chu, you've said so much. In fact, you're also gambling. What if I refuse? How will you arrange your grandson's way out? He did not want to be controlled too much. The old monk smiled gently. If Qin Sheng still didn't agree after he had said so much, he could only say that he had looked down on this young man. He was not afraid to show his trump card. He replied, It's very simple. If you refuse to reconcile, I only have one way out. I'll leave enough inheritance for him and arrange for him to go abroad. He will find a place where no one knows him and live an ordinary life. This is also the last thing I can do. As for my family property, I won't care about it at that time. In the end, whoever takes out the property will be more powerful. For Huan Xin, his life is more important than anything else, isn't it? After Qin Sheng heard that, he sighed with emotion. Perhaps all the grandfathers were like this. He asked in a deep voice, Does he know? The old monk shook his head and said, If he knew, we wouldn't be sitting here and chatting. Qin Sheng said in a low voice, Alas, you've been so worried about him. I hope that one day when he knows, he can understand your good intentions. You, as a grandfather, love him more than anyone else in the world. It seemed that he was also saying this to himself. The conversation today reminded him of his grandfather. They had said all that should be said and talked about enough. Both sides had said what they were worried about and thought about. Both sides had revealed all their trump cards. Now, they were waiting for the mystery to be revealed. The old monk took the lead and said, Qin Sheng, now can you tell me your choice? Qin Sheng fell into silence and thought about what he should say. In fact, the old monk had already thought of the result. Qin Sheng really had no way to refuse. Although the Yin family was the culprit and the Chu family was just an accomplice, Qin Sheng had to take back all the capital and interest. Qin Sheng frowned and said, I can promise you, but I also have a condition. The old monk said disapprovingly, As I said, as long as you promise me, we can talk about any condition. Qin Sheng said slowly, My brother's life must be paid by someone. Master Chu, you definitely don't want your grandson to pay for it. Since you said you're willing to pay for it, I will make a bet with you. The Chu family has shown enough sincerity. This is also my sincerity, Qin Sheng said slowly. The old monk was not angry at all. Anyway, he didn't have much time left. Even if he had to pay for it with his life, it didn't matter. He smiled and said, Tell me, how do you want to bet? Qin Sheng continued, From today on, the Chu family will help me deal with Third Master Wu. I also promise that after you die, I will help Chu Huanqi to take over. If you die in the process of dealing with Third Master Wu, you don't have to pay for it. I will continue to do what I promised you. If you're still alive after dealing with Third Master Wu, at that time, your life will be mine. The old monk said without hesitation, Okay, it's a deal. He made a decision without any consideration. His courage was really admirable. So far, Qin Sheng's trip to Hangzhou had come to a successful end. He didn't need to wait for Boss Hu's reply. He could immediately go back on his words and go to Shanghai to deal with other things. After all, he had the Dugu family and the old monk as his allies, and Wei Li as his helper. Next, he needed to worry about Third Master Wu. Qin Sheng didn't expect the plot to change so suddenly. Finally, he saw the result he wanted. So he walked slowly to the old monk, reached out his hand and said, Master Chu, I hope our cooperation will be smooth. The old monk shook hands with Qin Sheng with a smile. When he looked at Qin Sheng, his eyes were full of pleading. He was just an ordinary old man who was past his prime. Later, Qin Sheng talked with the old monk about some details. For example, in the next 3 years, Chu Huanqi had to worship Gu Qingyang and apologize to him on every festival. The Chu family also had to set up a charity fund with Gu Qingyang's name in order to let more people remember Gu Qingyang's name. The old monk agreed to these trivial conditions unconditionally. He had done so much, so it was not a big deal. When Qin Sheng walked out of the living room, the others all surrounded him. After all, Qin Sheng had stayed in there for more than an hour. They didn't know what the Chu family was talking about. Brother Wu couldn't wait to ask, "Young master, what happened?" Qin Sheng said in a good mood, "Let's go back first. But I have to go back to Shanghai tonight. The thing in Hangzhou has been solved. The rest is up to you." Brother Wu, Wang Jian, and the others were confused. They didn't know what Qin Sheng meant. Why did the thing in Hangzhou suddenly end? Did Qin Sheng reach an agreement with the Chu family? At the back of the manor, the old housekeeper of the Chu family had wanted to arrange for Chu Huanqi to go to the hospital for treatment. However, Chu Huanqi stubbornly refused. He insisted on waiting here for the result. Otherwise, he would feel uneasy. When Chu Huanqi saw his grandfather walk into the room, he asked eagerly, "How is Grandpa?" There was only the old housekeeper in the room. Besides Qin Sheng and the old monk, he was the only one who knew about the old monk's condition. This disease had been discovered at the beginning of the year. When it was discovered, it was already in the late stage. This was under the premise that the old monk had to have a physical examination every year. It could be seen how fast this disease was developing. Some time ago, the famous expert at home and abroad had told the old monk that the disease was out of control. Even an operation would be useless. There was no precedent of a successful operation at home and abroad. If he was lucky, he could live for another 3 months. Therefore, it was better to prepare for his funeral as soon as possible. This was also the reason why the old monk had made up his mind to reconcile with Qin Sheng and reach an agreement with him at all costs. He agreed. The old monk walked over and touched his grandson's hair. His eyes were full of pity. The bitterness he had suffered today was nothing. In 10 or 20 years, when he looked back, today would be the most important turning point in his life. After hearing this, Chu Huanqi finally passed out laughing. In the villa of the Chu family in Cici, Lin Zhe was still enjoying the peak of his life. Of course, he thought this was the last crazy moment. If he drank too much later, he would probably be killed. In this case, he might as well get high and ignore everything. At this time, several bodyguards of the Chu family finally received a call. They walked quickly to Lin Zhe and said, "Child Lin, you're fine now. We'll send you back." Lin Zhe, who was drunk, frowned and said, "What did you say? What do you mean I'm fine now? Are you King kidding me? You're the ones who invited me here, and you're the ones who asked me to leave. Who do you think I am?" The bodyguard knew Lin Zhe's temper well. He frowned and said, "Child Lin, if you don't leave, don't blame us for beating you." Hearing this, Lin Zhe admitted defeat immediately. He just wanted to show off in front of the beauty, who knew what was going on. If he could leave, he would leave as soon as possible. So he smiled and said, "I'm just kidding. Little brother, I'm leaving now. I'm leaving now." The bodyguards of the Chu family didn't let Lin Zhe leave alone. Instead, they forced him to leave Cici. They would directly send Lin Zhe to Qin Sheng's private courtyard, which was also Qin Sheng's request. As for the equity relationship between the Lin family and the Chu family, Qin Sheng would solve it for the Lin family. He would directly take Lin Zhe to Shanghai in case he continued to make trouble in Hangzhou. Chapter 721. I don't care anymore what happened tonight was full of twists and turns. Qin Sheng had never thought that it would end up like this. Even though he had experienced so many things, he still felt that it was unbelievable. Although Qin Sheng was sometimes very cautious, what happened tonight, as well as what the old monk and Chu Huanqi had done, made Qin Sheng unable to doubt whether it was true or not. If they really wanted to harm him, it would be too easy. They could directly contact the Yin family and Third Master Wu. There was no need to make such a big scene. As Qin Sheng had guessed, the old monk did not have to do this. If he really wanted to kill Qin Sheng or offend him, the Qin family would be furious. In the end, Third Master Wu and Yin Chaozong would be happy. Was the old monk so stupid? At first, Qin Sheng could not figure out. It was not until the old monk finally revealed the mystery that he understood what was going on. It turned out that the old monk did not have long to live. As for the specific illness or what was going on, Qin Sheng did not ask further. Alas, poor elders. Chu Huanqi would understand all of this eventually. When Qin Sheng returned to the courtyard, he ordered the servants to prepare some wine in the back garden. Everyone could see that Qin Sheng was in a good mood. They all had a lot of questions to ask and were waiting for Qin Sheng to speak. Everyone else had been cleared out. Only Qin Sheng and his trusted subordinates were left. Qin Sheng looked at Yang Daniyu and said, "Daniyu, don't drink tonight. We have to go back to Hangzhou later." Yang Daniyu curled his lips. Although he really wanted a drink, since Qin Sheng had said so, he could only endure it. He had to make Qin Sheng compensate him later. "Young master, don't hide it. What on earth happened? We were almost suffocated." Brother Wu was the first to ask. He was really curious. The one who was most surprised was Bahi. He had thought that tonight would be a battle of life and death. He was already prepared to rescue Qin Sheng and the others, but he did not expect them to come back so quickly. Moreover, they were unscathed, and Qin Sheng seemed to be in a good mood. What was going on? "You guys are so useless," Qin Sheng said angrily. Wang Jian did not know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "Young master, it's not that we are useless. It's just that what happened tonight is so weird that we have to ask." All right, I'll tell you what happened tonight." Qin Sheng picked up a bottle of imported beer and took a sip. After that, he stopped being casual and said seriously, "The old monk has reconciled with us. We can't refuse his offer. As for what the offer is, I can tell you some of it, but you don't need to know the rest. Anyway, we have made a lot of money this time. We don't need to wait for Boss Who's message anymore. With the help of the old monk and the Dugu family, we dare to take action against Third Master Wu." This news was really explosive. After everyone heard it, they were all stunned. No one thought that things would develop so quickly. It was completely beyond everyone's imagination. Brother Wu had already guessed what Qin Sheng meant. He asked in a deep voice, "Young master, do you mean that the old monk has reconciled with us and is helping us to deal with Third Master Wu at the same time?" Qin Sheng smiled and shook his head as he said, "He is not helping us deal with Third Master Wu. He is doing his best to help us deal with Third Master Wu. Even if there is no movement in Shanghai, even if the Dugu family and the Hu family do not intend to help, the old monk will still attack Third Master Wu. In this way, he will not be able to take care of himself." After Qin Sheng finished his explanation, everyone was even more shocked. It was really much more shocking than they had expected. However, why did the old monk do this? Wang Jian could not help but say, "Young master, why did the old monk want to reconcile with us? Why did he do this? There is no reason at all. At least, I can't figure it out. You don't have to worry about this. You don't have to know the details. You will be very busy from now on." Qin Sheng waved his hand and said, "Of course, there were still many things that he could not let them know. Once it was leaked, it would not be good for both sides." Brother Wu frowned and said, "Young master, can we trust the old monk? You don't have to doubt me. I have already completely trusted him. To be honest, at the beginning, I was the same as you. I did not expect that the old monk would make such a big move tonight just to choose to reconcile with us. At the same time, he gave us such a big gift. However, when the things that happened later became clear, I knew the reason and understood the old monk. I will not explain the specific reason to you guys," Qin Sheng said with interest. Since Qin Sheng had already said so, it was not good for the others to ask about the details. Since Qin Sheng could agree to reconcile with them, it meant that he had already figured out the reasons behind it. Qin Sheng continued, "I will go back to Shanghai in a while. I will leave the matters in Hangzhou to you guys. I will tell Wei Li everything. At that time, you can discuss with Wei Li about contacting the old monk. As for contacting the old monk, you must be careful. Don't be easily discovered, at least for now. When a situation in Shanghai is settled, you don't have to worry anymore. Young master, don't worry. We know what to do, Brother Wu said firmly. Qin Sheng had already paved the way. If they still did not know what to do, it would be a little disadvantageous for them. After drinking 2 bottles of wine, they talked about some specific problems. Brother Wu and Wang Jian also told them about the problems that they were worried about. Qin Sheng explained to them one by one, so that they would be more confident. After that, Qin Sheng went back to his room alone and dialed Wei Li's number. After the call was connected, Wei Li smiled and said, "What's wrong? Do you want a drink? I will find a place right now." Qin Sheng had kept a respectful distance from Wei Li in the beginning. Now, he felt that Wei Li was the most trustworthy person to cooperate with. This change in mentality was also a kind of experience. He replied, "Let's drink next time. What I want to tell you is that I will go back to Shanghai in a while. Help me tell Uncle Wei that next time you go to disturb him, or when he comes to Shanghai or Beijing, I, as a junior, will treat him." After hearing that, Wei Li was surprised and asked, "What happened? Why are you in such a hurry to go back to Shanghai?" How could Wei Li not worry? Qin Sheng was in a bad situation now. Whether it was in Beijing, Shanghai, or Hangzhou, he had not made any progress. One could imagine how much pressure Qin Sheng was under. Nothing happened. It's just that the matter in Hangzhou has been settled. There is no point for me to stay, Qin Sheng explained. Wei Li thought that Qin Sheng had completely given up on Basu. He replied, "Lao Qin, I made a mistake this time. I thought that uncle Hu would definitely agree. It did not occur to me that he would refuse. Don't go back to Shanghai in a hurry. After my father comes back, I will ask them to talk again. Maybe there will be some progress." Qin Sheng said slowly, "I don't care whether Basu agrees or not, because it is not important to me anymore. Even without him, the matter in Hangzhou will still go on. That is because I have another ally who is more powerful than him." Wei Li became more and more confused. Originally, he wanted to continue asking, but then he said directly, "Lao Qin, don't keep me guessing. What on earth is going on? Tell me directly. Are you trying to make me anxious?" After thinking for a while, Qin Sheng gave the answer. "Tonight, just now, I reached an agreement with the old monk. From tomorrow on, the old monk will help me deal with Third Master Wu with all his strength. Do you think I still need Basu?" "What?" After hearing that, Wei Li was shocked for a long time. He began to think about what on earth was going on. Why did the situation suddenly change? In the following time, Qin Sheng told Wei Li what had happened tonight in detail. Still, he said what should be said and left out what should not be said. Wei Li asked, "You are enemies. How could you just let go of the past and reconcile with the old monk? This is not your style." Qin Sheng said with a smile, "The Chu family owes me, of course. I have collected the principal with interest. If I had not collected them, how could I have agreed to reconcile with them? Even if the old monk offered me such a condition, I would not have agreed to reconcile with him." Wei Li was very curious and asked what on earth it was. Qin Sheng said that he could not tell him now. He would naturally know later. Anyway, it was a big surprise this time. After that, Qin Sheng told Wei Li, "As for Dugu Qingning, you can tell him about it. However, you must tell him that only the head of the Dugu family can know about it. For now, he can't leak it out. This can be regarded as a reassurance to them. When something happens in Shanghai, they won't have to worry too much." After hearing that, Wei Li nodded and said, "Don't worry about it. I know how to tell him. Can I contact the old monk? Anyway, we don't need to worry too much about the old monk. With his strength and experience of fighting with Third Master Wu for so many years, he knows how to deal with Third Master Wu. You just need to control the overall situation and help the old monk occasionally," Qin Sheng said. Wei Li said thoughtfully, "Then I understand. Okay, let's talk about this first. I have to go back to Shanghai to keep an eye on them. Otherwise, I will be found out. From tomorrow on, the pressure in Shanghai should be much less. After Third Master Wu is in trouble, I will go back to Hangzhou. At that time, we can have a good celebration," Qin Sheng said with a smile, and then hung up. After that, Qin Sheng went out of the bedroom. At this time, Lindsay had been sent back. He stood in the yard with a confused look. Looking at Lindsay, who was drunk, Qin Sheng felt sorry for his misfortune and angry at his incompetence. If this brother-in-law had a little ambition, he could have made him stand at a high enough position. The future of the Lin family would not be limited to this. What a pity. Qin Sheng stared at Lin Zhe and snorted. Did you have a good time? After seeing Qin Sheng, Lin Zhe said angrily, Qin Sheng, it seems that you know what happened tonight. Did you do it? I know you look down on me. But what on earth do you want? I did it. Do I have nothing better to do than to make things difficult for you? Are you qualified to do so? Qin Sheng said unhappily. I solved the problem for you, but you still want to buy me back? Lin Zhe thought about it and agreed. With the current status of his brother-in-law, there was no need for him to make things difficult for him. He was confused and asked, what on earth is going on? Qin Sheng said impatiently, what happened tonight is over. Remember, don't tell anyone. If I know, I won't forgive you. Also, you will go back to Shanghai with me later. You're so free in Hangzhou. Can't you help Susu more? If you want me to think highly of you, you should work harder. Lin Zhe was used to this and did not have the courage to refute. What he was most afraid of was that Qin Sheng would really be angry. He could only say weakly, I haven't finished the thing in Hangzhou yet. Qin Sheng said casually, I have solved it for you. They will contact second uncle later. You don't have to worry about it. After hearing this, Lin Zhe, who was depressed and listless just now, was so excited that he was at a loss. He admired his brother-in-law more and more, but he was also more and more afraid. Chapter 722. An overbearing and beautiful. So during this trip to Hangzhou, Qin Sheng's most important task was to deal with the Dugu family and Boss Hu. The Dugu family went smoothly, while Boss Hu was ambiguous, so it was very likely that he would refuse. Qin Sheng had thought that his trip to Hangzhou would be a bittersweet one. He did not expect that there would be a silver lining at the end of the tunnel. Lin Zhe's most important task was to deal with the equity issues of the Lin family and the company he worked for. However, his ability and resources were limited. Moreover, he had a strong relationship with the old monk. It was not smooth from the beginning. The old monk did not care about him at all. He even beat him hard as a warning. In the end, he thought that he was almost kidnapped. Fortunately, his brother-in-law appeared out of nowhere and helped him solve this problem easily. It seemed that this little thing was not a big deal to him at all. The gap between people was really huge. Lin Zhe could not help thinking that he had to work hard in the future. If he did not work hard and was looked down upon by his brother-in-law, such a big thigh would really fly away. On the way back to Shanghai, Lin Zhe, who was sitting in the passenger seat, wanted to find a chance to chat with Qin Sheng to improve their relationship. He wanted to talk more with Qin Sheng and show his loyalty to his brother-in-law, telling him that he would really work hard in the future. Unexpectedly, Qin Sheng directly closed his eyes to rest after making 2 phone calls. Lin Zhe did not dare to disturb him, in case he would be scolded. He also did not dare to call girls to flirt with them. In the end, he could only play with his phone all the way. This was the most embarrassing journey in his life so far. Qin Sheng was more or less sleepy. After thinking about things for a while, he directly fell asleep. When he woke up, he was almost home in Pudong. However, Lin Zhe had already disappeared. Where is Lin Zhe? Qin Sheng asked casually. Yang Dainyu explained with a smile. He was restless all the way. After entering the city, he got off the car and left. He said that if you asked, you could tell him that he went home to rest and did not go out to play. From tomorrow on, he would turn over a new leaf and make you look at him in a new light. Qin Sheng did not want to say anything, so he just said, oh, such a rich playboy, who had lived like a prince since he was young and only knew how to eat, drink, and have fun. If he did not suffer some grievances and hardships, he would not know what was called hard work at all. Children from poor families had to take charge of the household at an early age, mostly because of problems in life. However, this kind of nouveau riche did not need to think about these things at all. Even if he just sat around and waited for his death, as long as he was not too wasteful, the inheritance would be enough for him to squander for a few lifetimes. Therefore, those second-generation children who had good looks and talent and worked harder than ordinary people were truly worthy of admiration. "Brother Chin, shall I take you home now?" Yang Dainyu asked with a smile. This time, he finally got to know Qin Sheng's brother-in-law, who was really interesting. Qin Sheng remembered that he seemed to have forgotten to bring his keys. It was already 11 o'clock. He did not know if Lin Su was at home. He only knew that Lin Su had been working overtime recently. "Let me call my wife first," Qin Sheng said quietly. His heart ached for his wife the most. Very soon, Qin Sheng ended the call. He asked Lin Su if she was at home or working overtime in the company. Of course, he did not tell her that he had already returned to Shanghai. Lin Su did not lie. She told him that she was still working overtime in the company and was about to finish the last bit of work. She would go back in a while. Qin Sheng said a few words of heartache and hung up the phone. He did not want to disturb Lin Su anymore. After hanging up the phone, Qin Sheng asked Yang Dainyu to drive directly to Poly Square. Yang Dainyu naturally knew that Qin Sheng was going to pick up Beauty Lin. Since she returned to the company, Lin Su had returned to the appearance of a strong woman. Although these old employees of the company did not know why this domineering, beautiful CEO had disappeared for so long, they were quite happy to see her return. After all, this beautiful CEO was really beautiful and elegant. Even if they looked at her a few times a day, they would be very motivated to work. Of course, after the domineering, beautiful CEO came back, she brought the news that the headquarters of Lin's enterprise would be moving to Shanghai. This was good news for them. It meant that the company would be restructured and expanded. The entire group's relocation preparation team was divided into two parts. One part was in Ningbo, which was led by second uncle of the Lin family and many senior executives of the group. The other part was in Shanghai, which was led by Lin Su personally. There happened to be a company moving downstairs, so it was rented by Lin Su as a temporary office space. The senior executives and staff from Ningbo were currently working here. Lin Su was very energetic. She almost worked around the clock every day, which made many male employees feel inferior. If it were not for Qin Sheng, Lin Su was afraid that she would often work overtime until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Fortunately, Qin Sheng was here now. Qin Sheng told Lin Su a piece of news, which Lin Su did not tell anyone at present. That was when the headquarters of Lin's group would be moved to Shanghai. The Shanghai municipal government would send 2 leaders at the level of deputy mayor to attend. After hearing this news, Lin Su was very happy. Of course, this was a gift from Zhu Qingwen to the Lin family and Lin Su. Of course, the most important thing was Lin Su's face. However, these were within the reasonable rules. After all, the Lin family was qualified enough for 2 deputy mayors to come forward. It was just that they did not have the resources. Unknowingly, it was already 12 o'clock. Lin Su finally finished the last bit of work for the day. She slowly stood up and stretched. She looked a little lazy, but more than that, she was tired. Walking to the French window, Lujiazui, not far away, was still brightly lit. She did not know how many people were still working overtime. However, Lin Su did not care much about these. She only cared about whether Qin Sheng, who was far away in Hangzhou, was tired or not. Lin Su, who was very tired just now, instantly felt warm in her heart after receiving Qin Sheng's caring phone call. She felt that all these were nothing. Lin Su was very clear that she could not help Qin Sheng at all. Therefore, what she could do was not to drag Qin Sheng down and not to let Qin Sheng worry about her. "I don't know how things are going in Hangzhou," Lin Su muttered to herself. It was very late. After recalling her thoughts, Lin Su walked out of the office and told her colleagues who were still working overtime that they could get off work. Then, she left the company with several of her secretaries and assistants. Because Qin Sheng was worried that the underground parking lot would be too small and unsafe, he arranged for the driver and bodyguards to pick Lin Su up at the entrance of the company. In this way, at least there would be no accidents. No one dared to be unscrupulous in the prosperous Pudong of Shanghai. When Lin Su went downstairs, she had already told the driver that he could pick her up. However, when she walked out of the building, she did not see a car to pick her up. This made Lin Su a little surprised. It was the first time that she had encountered such a situation. She was going to call and ask what was going on. Lin Su's secretary frowned and said, "Boss Lin, why didn't I see a car to pick you up? Did something happen?" Several secretaries and assistants, if they worked overtime too late, would personally send Lin Su to the car before they left. At the same time, the company's 2 security guards would also send Lin Su off the building until she got on the car. These 2 security guards were sent by Qin Sheng. However, it was the first time that they had encountered such an unexpected situation. "I'll call and ask," Lin Su frowned and said. The others were not in a hurry to leave. They were going to wait for Boss Lin to leave first. At this time, Qin Sheng, who had been standing in the corner, shouted in a frivolous manner, "Beauty Lin, can you do me the favor and let me send you home?" Everyone looked at the corner, looking for the source of the voice. When they saw Qin Sheng, everyone frowned slightly. It was not surprising that he had passed the Qin family's bodyguards. As for the others, only Lin Su's first secretary knew who Qin Sheng was. After all, Lin Su had let her see his photo. At this time, 2 male assistants were about to come forward and scold him. What kind of hooligan was this? How dare he flirt with our domineering beauty CEO? Did he not know how to write the word death? However, at this time, they were suddenly stunned. They saw that the domineering beauty CEO, who was usually extremely serious and cold, suddenly ran over in her high heels. Meanwhile, the unattractive man in the corner had already opened his arms and was waiting to hug their domineering beauty CEO with a smile on his face. What the hell was this? Everyone's mind went blank for a moment. More or less, they did not react. Was this still their domineering beauty CEO? Didn't they hear that the domineering beauty CEO was still single? No one had seen her boyfriend before. Could it be that this guy was the main character? Lin Su was also very surprised and pleasantly surprised. She did not expect that Qin Sheng, who was still in Hangzhou where she called just now, would suddenly appear here. This really made her very happy. In the blink of an eye, Qin Sheng had already hugged the woman he loved the most. He hugged her and spun her in the air twice before putting her down. Lin Su could not stop smiling. Her eyes were full of love. She held Qin Sheng's arm tightly and took the initiative to tiptoe to kiss her man. Everyone over there was even more stunned. It was the first time for them to see the domineering beauty CEO smiling so happily. It really surprised them. However, the domineering beauty CEO looked really good when she smiled. It was like the warm sun in early winter, making people feel warm. However, seeing the goddess in their hearts hugging and kissing another man like this, they more or less felt a little uncomfortable in their hearts. There were all kinds of jealousy and hatred. They only hated that they were not that man. After kissing Qin Sheng, Lin Su said happily, "When you came back." Qin Sheng touched Lin Su's long hair and said with a smile, "I was already back when I called you just now. I thought you had already gone home. I did not expect that you were still working overtime, so I came to pick you up. How long have you been waiting?" Lin Su thought that it seemed that a long time had passed, so she asked. Qin Sheng laughed and said, "About 40 minutes. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I would have gotten off work directly." Lin Su complained. She felt sorry for making Qin Sheng wait for so long. After all, he was very busy and tired every day. Qin Sheng shook his head and said, "Compared to our big CEO Lin, who has been working overtime until now, I am nothing." Lin Su pouted and could not help kissing Qin Sheng again. At this time, she remembered that her colleagues were waiting over there. Finally, she felt a little embarrassed and said, "It's too late. Let's go home first." Qin Sheng nodded and waved to the driver not far away. The driver who drove Lin Su to and from work every day drove the car over. The driver quickly got off the car and opened the door. At the same time, he greeted Qin Sheng, "Young master." After Lin Su greeted her colleagues a little shyly, she followed Qin Sheng into the car. Naturally, Qin Sheng did not forget to nod to them as a greeting. Together with Yang Daniu's car, which was following behind, the 3 cars then left. It was only then that the people who stayed at the same place understood why no one dared to chase after their domineering beauty CEO. It turned out that the domineering beauty CEO was already taken, and it seemed that her background was not simple. Chapter 723. You're right. In the company, Lin Su was a domineering and beautiful president. Whether it was in meetings or social engagements, she always kept people at arm's length. However, in front of Qin Sheng, Lin Su was more like a little woman. She was no longer the goddess she used to be. Qin Sheng remembered that not long after he returned to Shanghai, when he saw Lin Su again after 2 years, he was also waiting for her here. From then on, their relationship was no longer that of passers-by who had hurriedly parted ways with each other. Until today, they had been in love for almost 2 years. Perhaps no one had expected this. However, from another perspective, Qin Sheng and Lin Su's current situation was all thanks to the playboy, young Master Xiaoding. If he had not seen Lin Su's amazing beauty and prepared to launch an attack, Qin Sheng might not have met Lin Su. In that case, he would not know many things now. Maybe Lin Su had married Yin Chaozong and had a child under the pressure of her family, or maybe Lin Su was still single. Anyway, those things would not happen in the future. After Qin Sheng and Lin Su left, these colleagues finally could not help gossiping. Hey, tell me, what's the background of Boss Lin's boyfriend? Does anyone know? After Qin Sheng and Lin Su left, these colleagues finally could not help gossiping. After Lin Su returned to the company, she contacted the secretary and assistant. However, most of them already had jobs. Only this secretary was willing to come back, so only she had met Qin Sheng. You mean Boss Lin has been in a relationship with him for 2 years? Oh my God, my goddess, my world is collapsing. I thought Boss Lin didn't have a boyfriend. Xiao, you are so unkind. You are so good at keeping secrets. The male assistant sighed. The others were also a little shocked. They thought that Boss Lin's boyfriend had just appeared not long ago. It turned out that they had been together for a long time. Because the person Boss Lin liked also liked Boss Lin. This was the purest love, not because of family background or just because they were suitable. Someone could not help but refute. F***CK. Are you stupid? Didn't you hear what Boss Lin's driver called this man when he got out of the car? He called him young master. What kind of family do you think can have such a title? I think you have been working overtime recently. Originally, Ruan Xiao did not want to say these things, but she was really forced by them. She had no choice but to explain. Okay, then I will say it today. Don't spread it out, in case you make wild guesses in the future. Ruan Xiao said slowly. President Lin's new car, as well as the bodyguards and drivers who protect President Lin every day, are all arranged by President Lin's boyfriend. As for the specific identity of this man, in fact, I don't know, but I heard from President Lin that he can at least buy several of our groups. Listen carefully, not our company, but our entire Lin's group. After listening to Ruan Xiao's words, everyone was shocked. So he had such a powerful background. No wonder he could chase after a goddess like Boss Lin. Why did you come back so soon? I thought I would have to wait for 10 days to half a month, Lin Su asked casually. No matter what, she was still very happy that he came back so soon. You're so talkative. You're getting more and more hooligan, Lin Su said with a red face. Lin Su was afraid that he would continue talking nonsense, so she quickly changed the topic. I'm going to visit my grandmother tomorrow. Do you have time to go with me? Lin Su said thoughtfully. Okay, I will go by myself tomorrow. When Qin Sheng came to the company in the morning, the ordinary employees of the company were not surprised by this president's mysterious appearance. However, Zhong Shan and Yin Pan knew that Qin Sheng went to Hangzhou and might be staying for a long time, so when they saw him, they were very surprised. Qin Sheng said with a smile, I was afraid that you would be lazy, so I came back early. I was away for a few days. Did you do your work well? Qin Sheng frowned and said, What? Which vice president is coming? Why didn't I know? Qin Sheng did not say anything and fell in a deep thought. Sister actually did not inform him. It seemed at this time, the person who came was even more unfriendly. The imperialism would not give up. The person who came was definitely not the direct descendant of the old man. When Yin Pan heard the word boyfriend, her eyes flickered a little. She forced a smile and said, No, I'm fine. Recently, the company is so busy. How can I leave? Not long after Qin Sheng arrived at the office, Zhongshan had already come in. He opened the door and asked, "Why did you suddenly come back? Is a matter in Hangzhou over?" Zhongshan could only put his own question aside and answer Qin Sheng's question. Vice President Wang Chengshui, who is in charge of the Risk Management Committee, I thought you already knew. I was also wondering what was going on. Didn't you already confirm that there will be no interference in the near future? Why did such an important person suddenly come out? Who cares about him? Different situations call for different actions. What can he do to us? Zhongshan did not care about this. Since Qin Sheng did not know, he could only deal with it by not changing. The matter in Hangzhou is a long story. Although there were some twists and turns, the result is much better than expected. You don't have to worry about this. After Lao Chong and the others come, I will talk to them in detail, Qin Sheng said meaningfully. After Zhongshan left, Qin Sheng immediately called his sister. Of course, he could not directly call the old man about this matter. Sister, Wang Chengshui is definitely not one of our people, right? Qin Sheng did not say anything and asked directly. What did the old man say? Qin Sheng asked with a frown. Hearing this, Qin Sheng finally realized how serious the problem was. Chapter 724. Was he really not coming back? To be honest, Qin Sheng's confidence in reorganizing the Shanghai company came from Qin Chang'an's support in the group. As long as Qin Chang'an was still the actual controller of the Chang and group, Qin Sheng would have enough freedom in Shanghai. However, once Qin Chang'an lost control of the Chang and group, Qin Sheng would definitely be unable to do anything in Shanghai. How could those hostile forces let him complete his task smoothly? Therefore, the thing that Qin Sheng was most worried about had finally happened. He also realized the seriousness of the problem. It seemed that the internal struggle of the group had reached a white-hot point. It was possible that it had changed from the appearance of unity at the beginning to the current situation of falling out. This was a most terrible thing. Qin Sheng had once read a historical book. There was a paragraph written in it, which said that once there was a line of divergence within an interest group, they would often fight to the death because they would not give the initiative to others. In other words, they would not let others control their own life and death. This was the situation that the Chang and group was facing now. It was really a real internal and external trouble. Qin Chang'an's power was being eroded step by step until he could not completely control the Chang and group. At that time, it would be a disastrous blow to the Chang and group and the Qin family, not to mention Qin Sheng, who was far away in Shanghai. Sister, has it already reached such a serious point? Qin Sheng stopped thinking. It was not the time to think about these things. He had to further understand the situation in Beijing. Qin Ran said anxiously, although it has not reached the most serious point yet, if it goes on like this, then the worst result is only a matter of time. Several major shareholders have already turned to support Mr. Liu. 2 of them used to support our Qin family, and 3 remain neutral. But today, they all voted for Mr. Liu at the board meeting. That's why Wang Chengshui went south. The current situation is very delicate, and the Qin family is already at a disadvantage. The old man is still working hard. Qin Ren knew more than Qin Sheng. This was a delicate situation, but it was also a bad sign. The 3 of them had already turned to Godfather Liu. The gap between the 2 parties in terms of the board of directors and the control of the board of directors was gradually narrowing. Once these few neutral shareholders supported Godfather Liu, the Qin family would completely lose the control of the board of directors. At that time, it was very likely that Mr. Liu would immediately reconvene a shareholders' meeting to elect a new chairman. Although the Qin family still had a seat on the board according to the shares, it was meaningless to lose control of the board of directors. It meant that the Qin family would be completely marginalized. After so many years of operation in Chang, and the Qin family would gradually collapse. I can't help you at all, Qin Sheng said regretfully. Only the Qin family was facing everything. How could he imagine how much pressure he was under? Qin Ran said meaningfully. Qin Sheng, even I can't help him, let alone you. These fights are beyond our level. What we can do is to do our own things well and not be a burden to the old man. Moreover, it's not suitable for you to get involved in the storm now. It might be better for you to stay far away in Shanghai, but you have to solve your troubles in Shanghai as soon as possible. Once something happens in Beijing, the Qin family can only rely on you. Sister, I will deal with the things in Shanghai as soon as possible. Let me know if you have any news. Qin Sheng nodded. It seemed that he had to speed up. The situation was urgent. Qin Ran said thoughtfully, "Okay, I know. Take care of yourself. If you can't do it, I will ask for the support of small aunt and uncle. They can stay away from the Qin family, but they can't ignore your business." Qin Sheng was a little shocked. It seemed that his sister already knew a lot of things. Her meaning was very obvious. She was going to put pressure on small aunt and uncle. Qin Sheng did not know what to say. He just felt that the pressure was getting heavier. He sighed and said, "Sister, no matter what, take care of yourself. Don't make me worry." Qin Ran smiled and replied, "You too. It's okay. No matter how miserable we are, the Qin family will not go back to more than 20 years ago. I don't believe that they can trample us to death." After hanging up the phone, Qin Sheng sat in the office for a long time without saying anything. He did not know what his sister meant. Did the Qin family have a backup plan? Maybe only Qin Chongqing, who was practicing in Wutai Mountain far away, knew that the Qin family had a backup plan. Just when Qin Sheng was in a daze, Yin Pan knocked on the door and came in. She said that Chang Baji and Bao Fan had arrived at the company. Qin Sheng immediately asked Yin Pan to bring them in. Soon, Chang Baji and Bao Fan sat opposite Qin Sheng. Bao Fan took the lead and said, "Young master, you returned to Shanghai so soon. It seems that things in Hangzhou went well." Qin Sheng stopped thinking and said with a smile, "There were many twists and turns, but the result was much better than expected. We should be able to hear the news today." Chang Baji knew Qin Sheng's character very well. He asked with a smile, "It seems that we have some unexpected surprises in Hangzhou." The Dugu family agreed to help. Basu chose to wait and see. The Wei family will try their best to help. But this can't completely destroy Third Master Wu. There are too many unknown risks. Just when I thought it was in a deadlock, the old monk appeared. Qin Sheng explained slowly. Chang Baji and Bao Fan did not know what had happened in Hangzhou. Hearing that the old monk appeared, they said at the same time, "The old monk appeared?" Qin Sheng said with a smile, "Yes. The old monk suddenly appeared and set up a trap. I thought he was going to attack me. Fortunately, he took the initiative to reconcile with me. At the same time, he promised me to deal with Third Master Wu with all his strength. Even if we didn't do anything in Shanghai, the old monk would still attack Third Master Wu. Are you surprised?" Qin Sheng said with a smile, "What?" Therefore, in the following time, Qin Sheng repeated the specific details of that night to Chang Baji and Bao Fan. This time, Qin Sheng did not hide anything. He told them everything that should be said, because Chang Baji and Bao Fan could be completely trusted. Moreover, they were his decision-makers. If he did not let them know the news, they might have scruples in their hearts. It was more likely that they would have a backup plan when doing things. It was unnecessary. After hearing what Qin Sheng said, Chang Baji, who had been very suspicious of the old monk's motive, sighed with emotion. No wonder. The old monk did this to pave the way for his grandson. Bao Fan frowned slightly and said, "What on earth is the old monk suffering from? Or is there something else? Why is he dying so soon?" Qin Sheng confirmed the plan directly and said, "This is not something we should worry about. We don't need to care about it. Now, we only need to cooperate with the old monk's action with all our strength. As long as the old monk takes action, we will follow closely and restrict Third Master Wu in Shanghai. In this way, he will not be able to take care of each other." Bao Fan immediately understood and said, "We know what to do. We will give the order later. Young master, don't worry. The old monk will definitely die this time." Qin Sheng asked in a hurry, "By the way, what on earth is the situation with Wu Yongchuan? If he agrees, we will have a great chance of winning. Moreover, we won't have to pay too much." Chang Baji immediately replied, "I was about to report this to you. Wu Yongchuan has already agreed verbally. However, He said that he has to see you to be completely sure. Qin Sheng laughed out loud as he said, "Very well. You've done a great job. Even if you can't do anything to Third Master Wu in the end, Wu Yongchuan's character will definitely make Third Master Wu sick to death." Ha ha. Since Third Master Wu had chosen to side with the Yin family, he would have to pay the price. This price was definitely not something that he could afford. First of all, the relationship between Wu Yongchuan and Third Master Wu could not be compared with others. Secondly, Wu Yongchuan had betrayed Third Master Wu once. Because of his relationship with the Wu family, Third Master Wu did not kill Wu Yongchuan. Now that Wu Yongchuan had betrayed him again, how sad would Third Master Wu be? Finally, Wu Yongchuan's character had determined that if he betrayed Third Master Wu this time, he would be more unscrupulous and merciless than last time. This would be a greater blow to Third Master Wu. Bao Fan let out a long sigh and said, "Third Master Wu is so unlucky to have such a foster son." Fortunately, there was no such person on their side. Qin Sheng took the opportunity to say, "When and where is suitable to meet? You can arrange these things and inform me when the time comes. I only hope that it will be as soon as possible." Bao Fan nodded seriously and said, "Okay, we will arrange it now." Regarding the matter in Shanghai and Hangzhou, Qin Sheng changed the topic at this time. "Brother Bao, help me keep an eye on Beijing. The situation is getting worse and worse. You definitely know more than I do." Hearing this, Bao Fan's face changed slightly. It seemed that there was something happening there again. Otherwise, Qin Sheng would not say such a thing. He just nodded silently. After talking about the matter, Chang Baji and Bao Fan directly left the World Financial Center. They did not stay for too long. Judging from Qin Sheng's attitude, what they needed most now was time. Not long after, Zhong Shan, who had finished the meeting, returned to the office again. He said casually, "Lao Chong and Lao Bao have already left? Not long ago. There are too many things to deal with. They have to deal with them quickly," Qin Sheng said in a low voice. Qin Sheng looked a little depressed, and his face was a little serious. Zhong Shan naturally asked, "How is it? What is the situation with Wang, Changshui? What do they say in Beijing?" Qin Sheng slowly stood up and walked in front of Zhong Shan. He patted Zhong Shan's shoulder gently and said, "Brother Zhong, things are more serious than you and I think. Wang Changshui may not be a big problem. More serious things are coming. We have to be mentally prepared." Qin Sheng's words were very heavy. Zhong Shan frowned and said, "What's the situation? Our Qin family may lose control of Chang'an. Don't you think it is serious? At that time, it will be useless for us to struggle in Shanghai for so long." Qin Sheng smiled bitterly and felt somewhat frustrated. Zhong Shan said thoughtfully, "It has not reached that step yet. Let's not worry about it. Let's finish the matter in Shanghai smoothly. If it really reaches that step, the situation is not something we can control." Qin Sheng suddenly thought of something that might change the situation. He could not wait to ask, "Brother Zhong, Mr. Ding will not come back?" Brother Zhong did not expect that Qin Sheng would suddenly ask such a question. He did not know what to say for a while. Chapter 725. That's him. Mr. Ding was a very important figure. He was the military counselor left by old Master Qin to Qin Chang'an. He assisted Qin Chang'an step by step to get to where he was today. In the end, when Qin Chang'an was at his peak, he bravely retired and lived in seclusion, which made many people confused. Mr. Ding's importance was not only because of his strong personal ability and his ability to deal with many things that had fallen into a deadlock, but also because Mr. Ding had very powerful resources. He had inherited a lot of resources from old Master Qin, which was what was most helpful to Qin Sheng. Therefore, it was not strange that Qin Sheng suddenly thought of Mr. Ding. If Mr. Ding came back with his ability and resources, he might help the Qin family reverse the situation. Even if he couldn't reverse the situation, he could definitely change the current passive situation of the Qin family, which was the biggest benefit for the Qin family. However, Mr. Ding had disappeared for so many years. It was not certain whether he could be found. Even if he was found, he might not come back. However, Qin Sheng still wanted to try again. What if? This was very important to Qin Sheng, so he said so. Because at present, only Zhongshan in front of him knew the news of Mr. Ding. Zhongshan was very clear about what Qin Sheng was thinking, so he did not hide it and directly replied, Qin Sheng, I know what you are thinking. You are thinking that if Mr. Ding comes back, maybe he will help the Qin family change the current situation. But I really don't know where Mr. Ding is. If I knew, how could I not tell you? What's more, even if you find Mr. Ding, it is another matter whether he wants to come back or not. He shook his head and said, Brother Zhong, I'm just asking. After all, it's Mr. Ding who helped the old man to get where he is today. Is Mr. Ding willing to see all these things end up in the end? Hearing that, Qin Sheng nodded and said, Brother Zhong, I'm just asking. Qin Sheng, I think Mr. Ding must know these things happen to the Qin family. If he is willing to come back, we don't need to find him. He will definitely come back. Maybe it is not the most dangerous time yet. So Mr. Ding is not willing to come back. Zhongshan comforted him, but he still did not say something. This was what Mr. Ding had told him before he left. Qin Sheng sighed and said, Maybe. I hope Mr. Ding will come back soon. I hope our Qin family can successfully get through this crisis. At this moment, Third Master Wu welcomed several young people in his garden form-style house in Shanghai. In addition to Yin Chaozong, who had been familiar with Third Master Wu for a long time, Shui Ku and Gu Yongning, who had almost recovered, were also there. These rich playboys definitely did not come to visit Third Master Wu for anything good. In the living room on the second floor, except for them, there was no one else. Chu Xikong, Wu, Yang, Ding, and Feng. The conversation on the second floor was joyous, but the atmosphere on the first floor was a little tense. After losing Gu Xiaobo, a powerful assistant, Feng he did not keep a low profile. On the contrary, he became more and more high profile. Perhaps it was because his status in the Yin family was steadily rising, so he was a little arrogant. Feng Chu, Master Wu, Sheng A. Feng, Master Wu Sheng's Ding I along as Shan I, Master Feng Tian Feng was Dong Ding Feng Yang Feng Master. Yang Feng Master Feng I. Sheng. Hearing this, Yang Ding could not help saying, Do you deserve it? Feng he was unhappy. He knew Yang Ding hated him, but this was his way of doing things. He did not care about what others said. He liked it when others could not bear to see him but could not kill him. Oh, I heard that you are also very powerful. Don't you like me? How about we have a fight? Feng he became more and more unscrupulous. Hearing this, Yang Ding could not bear it anymore. He said directly, Come on. It's not about winning or losing. It's about life and death. Do you dare? I don't dare. Do you think you deserve it? Bring it on. Feng he laughed out loud. He seemed to want to fight directly, regardless of the occasion. Chu Xikong, who had been sitting on the sofa in silence, snorted and said, That's enough. Don't you know where you are? If you want to die, go outside. Since Mr. Chu had spoken, Yang Ding had to bear it no matter how unhappy he was. Feng he was just talking without thinking. If it was really about life and death, Yang Ding would feel a little guilty. The people on the second floor did not know what was happening on the first floor. Even if they knew, they would not care. They did not care about such a trivial thing. They were all big shots. What they were worried about now was how to kill Qin Sheng. Shueka could not help but ask. Qin Sheng suddenly disappeared these days and showed up last night. What do you think he's been doing these days? Yin Chaozong replied, I don't know, but he has been very careful recently. Our spies have not found any trace of him until last night, when they saw him in Poly Square. Gu Yongning said thoughtfully, Is it possible that he left Shanghai secretly and went back to Beijing or somewhere else? Maybe he is looking for help? Shueka shook his head directly and said, It's impossible. What did he do in Beijing? He can't interfere in Beijing's affairs. As for the so-called help, who would be willing to get involved in the muddy water at this time? Gu Yongning nodded and said, You are right. Let's not care about this now. Let's think about how to deal with Qin Sheng. He changed the topic again. The car accident last time made him feel scared. He was still angry. If he did not give Qin Sheng a lesson, he would never be able to swallow it. At this time, Shueka suddenly laughed and said, "Before that, let me tell you a piece of good news, which will definitely make you happy." Yin Xiaozong and Gu Yongning looked at Shueku at the same time. Since Third Master Wu did not fit in with these young people, he basically did not speak and just listened to them. He did not know whether his choice this time was right or wrong. He always felt that, with his qualifications, it was somewhat disgraceful for him to hang around with these rich playboys. However, these rich playboys had very powerful backgrounds. They all represented the strength of the families behind them, so he did not dare to ignore them easily. Gu Yongning could not help but say, "What news? Lao Shui, don't keep us guessing." Yin Xiaozong's expression changed slightly. It seemed that he was also looking forward to it. Since it could make Shueku so happy, it was obviously not simple. It must have something to do with Qin Sheng. Third Master Wu just smiled and said nothing. The situation of the Qin family in Beijing is getting more and more dangerous. Now Qin Chang'an is almost losing the control of the Chang and system. Do you know what this means? It means that once he loses the control of the Chang and system, he will be abandoned. The Qin family will not be the Qin family anymore. At the same time, it means that he has more and more internal enemies. Those who used to support him have now become his enemies. Do you think the Qin family has anything to be afraid of? Shueika said very excitedly. He hoped that the Qin family would fall now. In the end, he even laughed unscrupulously. After hearing this, Yin Xiaozong was also very happy. He sighed and said, "This is indeed good news. The more dangerous the Qin family is, the more advantages we will have." Third Master Wu's expression changed slightly, but he could not hide the smile in his eyes. He had made a risky choice. Now that the Qin family was getting more and more dangerous, it meant that he had made the right choice. How could he not be happy? Gu Yongning then laughed and said, "Good news, good news. It seems that Qin Chang'an has lost the internal struggle in the Chang and system. It is only a matter of time before the Qin family falls. We can take action now." Shueika looked at the people present and said with a ruthless expression, "We have been peaceful for many days. Now it is time to make some trouble for Qin Sheng. We dare not do anything to Qin Sheng now. As long as the Qin family is still there, we can't do anything to him directly. But we have to do something to his subordinates." Yin Xiaozong did not take the initiative to say who is suitable. Instead, he looked at Shueku and asked, "Who do you think is suitable?" Shueku had already thought about it, so he said directly, "Doesn't he have a very powerful subordinate? I think his name is Chang Baji." "Third Master Wu, I've heard about your subordinate, Mr. Chu. Even Chang Baji was no match for him." If Mr. Chu had killed Chang Baji at that time, there wouldn't be so many problems now. So, I have to trouble you again this time. After Third Master Wu heard Shueiku's words, he did not expect that Shueiku would be so greedy. He wanted to deal with Chang Baji directly. He frowned and said, "It is indeed not a problem to deal with Chang Baji. Chu Sikong can also do it. But we have to find a suitable opportunity. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for Chu Sikong to kill Chang Baji alone in a prosperous place like Shanghai. Chang Baji is not as simple as you think. Xiaozong knows it very well." At this time, Yin Xiaozong also echoed, "Lao Shui, I know how you feel. But I suggest that we don't deal with Chang Baji first. The price is too high, and it will cause a greater disturbance. Don't forget that this is Shanghai. Qin Sheng is more powerful than us." Shueika said somewhat impatiently, "You really think too much. Isn't it just Chang Baji? We will lure him out of Shanghai. At that time, we can just send a few more people to deal with him. You have so many subordinates. Why do you keep them for nothing?" Third Master Wu was somewhat speechless. These rich playboys did not understand the risks at all. He did not care about them at all. Yin Xiaozong glanced at Gu Yongning. Gu Yongning was more rational than Shueku. He hoped that Gu Yongning would persuade Shueku to change the target. Gu Yongning said, "Lao Shui, we'd better listen to Third Master and Lao Yin. They are more experienced than us. Do you have any other suitable candidates?" Gu Yongning said conveniently. He also knew Shueiku's temper, especially now that Shueiku was very resentful. Chief Shui sighed and said, "Forget it. Since you have said so, Let's change the target. I heard from the people in Beijing that Qin Chang'an has a direct confidant in Shanghai called Bao Fan. You should have heard about him and should have his information. He has been working for Qin Sheng and contacted Qin Chang'an at the same time. We have to get rid of him. What do you think of this candidate? After Yin Chaozong heard it, he immediately replied, Bao Fan? I know. That's him. Third Master Wu was still not very interested. Anyway, no matter how big the problem was, these rich playboys would be responsible for it. He just let them do whatever they wanted. He just needed to do his job. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.